This will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
This is Westwood One Sports Night. Here's Lynnell Willingham.
Welcome in a national championship edition of Westwood One Sports Night with the youngest in charge, Lynnell Willingham, taking you up to 3 a.m. Eastern Time. It is the People Show. You know how to get at me. Talking text line will be wide open for you all night long, 310-840-4910. You can check out the show via the live stream on YouTube and X on YouTube. Just search Westwood One Sports Night on X. You can find me there and on every social media platform, all at the same handle. It is at NELL_BTP. We appreciate you locking in on one of over 200-plus affiliates out there nationwide as well. Let's get right into it, man. We're entering the waning moments of this national championship game between UConn and Michigan. Wolverines up 7 right now with about 3 minutes left to go in regulation. The story here in this second half has been UConn and their inability to knock down the three-point shot. It was the big difference maker in that first half where they were 5 of 15 from beyond the arc. Here in this second half, the rims have gotten a little tight. There's been this conspiracy on the broadcast all night long as to whether or not one basket is more favorable to one program than another. But while watching this game, I said it going in over the weekend, if Dan Hurley and company were able to pull this off, it puts him in that stratosphere of, in my opinion, the best college basketball coach of all time on the men's side. And then if he wins 3 titles in a span of 4 years, where does it put him in terms of the Mount Rushmore of coaches all time, period, man? He's having a pretty unprecedented run right now in Storrs, Connecticut with this UConn Huskies program. If the game finishes the way that it's gone here in the second half, we won't have that conversation. That conversation will be a moot point, and it'll be more about the Michigan Wolverines. It'll be more about the Michigan Wolverines and, you know, them using the transfer portal to really build this roster. If Michigan is able to hold on, they'll be the first national champion in NCAA tournament history to have a all transfer portal starting 5. So if that doesn't speak to the ever-changing landscape of college athletics, I don't know what does. Looks like they're going to be able to hold on here. This game, though, I got to go back and give more credit to Coach Hurley, though. Because remember, 7.5-point spread. I believe that was one of the largest or the largest ever for a national championship game. Everybody, including me at times, over the weekend and last week as well on the show, kind of counted out UConn, man. Didn't really give UConn a puncher's chance. And I know better. And so do you all as college basketball fans, man. Dan Hurley and the Huskies, even though they're down and probably going to lose this game, until the second half where things started to change a little bit and they stopped making shots, they executed their game plan to an absolute T in terms of what style of basketball was going to allow them, to ultimately, be in this game and to be competitive during this game. Oof. Is that the dagger? This is amazing. I talked about Alex Caravan like a dog all weekend. I said he should be a used car salesman. He didn't show up in the 2 games prior. He just knocked down a big 3. I'm doing my best here to try and recount what's happening here at the end of this basketball game. And we just had a dagger. Trey McKinney. Good gracious. All right, now it's looking like things may be getting out of reach here. Makes it a 9-point lead for the Michigan Wolverines, 65-56, with under 2 minutes left to go in regulation. What a fight, though, man. This is what I want to get into. The fight of the Huskies, man. No one gave them a shot. They're probably going to end up not covering that 7.5-point spread. So shout out to Vegas once again. Knowing what's best in every single situation. Man, though, just this game from start to finish as we're winding down here, I just, as the game got deeper, I became more and more impressed with the grit and the tenacity and the intensity and the focus that UConn ultimately played with. It was a tall task they were up against. Michigan has looked dominant throughout the course of this tournament. And the way that UConn played in the first half and the way that they started the second half, and things kind of went downhill 3 or 4 minutes into the second half. But, man, they executed their game plan to a T in terms of not letting Michigan have the extra possessions offensively, not allowing the Wolverines to get out in the transition. I'm thoroughly impressed, man. I am. But I got to give credit to Michigan as well, man. They have – their size ultimately has just been too much here for UConn, and their defense in the half court, I mean, just suffocating. If you're not throwing it down inside to Terrace Reed, they're really struggling to find good shots. So shout out to Michigan. Their length, we knew it going in, was ultimately going to be the deciding factor and the difference maker in this basketball game. But I want to give Michigan credit for another reason as well. The first half did not go their way. They could not hit the wide side of a barn. I believe they were, 0 for 9 from the three-point line. Could not hit in that first half. And you didn't really see it fluster them. You saw them continue to play their game. The big thing in the difference for Michigan, they're everywhere defensively. I mean, everywhere. Their length, their ability to get in the passing lane, in those minutes where Terrace Reed wasn't on the floor for UConn, I mean, it looked like a varsity team playing against a JV team in terms of the offense-defense matchup. They could not get a paint touch. They could not get a good look. And part of it was game plan specific, as it felt like they were kind of trying to wind the shot clock down and really start getting into their offense after the shot clock got under about 12 or 10. I'm still trying to put together the pieces here because, man, it felt like when UConn was able to withstand the initial blow from Michigan, it felt like they were going to make a game of this. They ultimately did. Scoreboard not really reflecting it right now as they sit here down 7. Crazier things have happened. This is why this tournament has been absolutely bonkers. We all know it. UConn not supposed to be here in the first place. We've seen Michigan. That's been the story. Michigan not being able to knock down the three-point shot. They've knocked down free throws, though. 23 of 24 tonight are the Wolverines and their ability to engage in this bar fight is the best way that I would describe it, man. That's how the first half was. It was like a bar fight. And Dan Hurley, his first half interview leading into the timeout with Tracy Wolfson, I thought described this game to an absolute T. He had to be all smiles. I think they said it on the broadcast. Both of these coaches had to have been all smiles going into the locker room simply based off of how the game has gone and how the game went. For UConn, muddying it up, making it yucky, making it nasty, a grind-them-out game where both teams didn't shoot it well from the perimeter. And they were ultimately down 4 going into the locker room. But as you're seeing here in this second half, the size of Michigan, ultimately too many mismatches that, Michigan's been able to exploit on the offensive end. And, whew, it was a good one in the first half, but now it's starting to look like the better team is starting to pull away here. We're going to be joined live from Lucas Oil by our guy Josh Graham, who co-hosts with me every Wednesday night here on Westwood One Sports Night. He'll be live on location giving us his reaction to a really, really good national championship game. Because I said it this weekend if you got the chance to listen to me. Man, I didn't think this was going to be close. And I feel foolish, right? Because in the same breath, I'm sitting here telling you, Dan Hurley this, Dan Hurley that. I believe in what he's built there and their ability to really take after him in terms of their play style. I just didn't see them being able to muddy it up. I didn't think Michigan would just all of a sudden not be able to shoot the ball from the perimeter, but that's what happened. That's what happened there in that first half. I'm impressed, though, by both of these teams, man. The grit, the tenacity that both of them played with.
The officiating has sucked.
The officiating
has been horrible.
It's been one of the bigger stories. For UConn being able to overcome it, though, because it feels like it's been going against them in terms of all the bad calls. I think they've been able to overcome it for the most part. There was that stretch before halftime where a flagrant gets called, and that kind of changed the course of the game a little bit in terms of they were able to keep it within 4. Then that kind of stretched it out to 7. And that's kind of where the game ultimately changed. But, man, you got to give credit to UConn in terms of, it's so cliche, and I know it's going to sound like coach speak, but, the grit, man, Solo Ball and Silas Demery, those two dudes getting in early foul trouble in the first half, and then, don't worry, Malachi Smith, Jaden Ross, they come off the bench, and it's like you don't skip a beat. Jaden Ross and Malachi Smith combining for 4 offensive rebounds, 4 extra possessions for the UConn Huskies, man. The way that all of their guys come in and play the exact same way, you might as well not have last names on the back of the jerseys. Honestly, you might as well just put Husky. They all play the same way. You cannot tell. Obviously, black, white, size differences, and so on and so forth make you be able to tell the difference. But, man, they all play the same way. There's a style. There's a style of basketball that they play.
Has nobody learned
Michigan
to
just turned
call
the ball
timeout?
over.
This is atrocious basketball by Michigan. Did they not watch the end of the Duke game? Nobody calls a timeout. They don't just sit there and wait to foul. They're just giving UConn free positions.
Man, it's been fascinating to watch here, man. It looks like Michigan is going to pull away with this. There's still a lot of time left. Under 40 seconds left to go in regulation. Michigan up 7 here. Feels like they're going to ultimately pull away. Up 5 here. Oh, here we go. It's like the more and more I talk about how the game is over, some crazy moment happens that could change things completely.
Yeah, UConn just won't die.
No, they won't.
Which is a very nice luxury to have in the championship game.
Oh, my God.
Solo Ball just hit a big-time shot to make it a 4-point game. They might review that to see where his toe was because it did look like he was flirting with the line.
This is insanity, dog.
But UConn literally just they might as well be Lazarus the way we've been celebrating this weekend. They are Lazarus with this. They just resurrect every single time.
But they're proving my point, though. They're losing Ultimately, they're probably going to end up choking this away. Not choking it away, but losing. But at the same time, they're proving my point, bro. These boys fight. They fight, they scratch, they claw, they take after his crazy ass. And remember, right, I made this point over the weekend in terms of like, he doesn't do this for the cameras, talking about Dan Hurley. You go to his 6 a.m. practice in stores, it's Malachi Smith and Solo Ball fighting to the death, which is why when those guys get in foul trouble and the other guys have to play, it's just like practice. These dudes are seasoned and ready for the moment. Ready for the moment. They deserve all the credit in the world. And I'm not trying to do the participation trophy bit. I'm not. It ends up being ruled a 2-pointer. But I can't help but be impressed. I can't help but notice. Denton put it beautifully. They will not say die. It'd be like the longest I quit match in the history of I quit matches.
That's going to be a 3, so this is going to be a 4-point game. There is just the smallest sliver. I'm looking at the same box score that you're looking at, and somebody got a little trigger happy on the 4-letter network.
Yeah.
There's just the smallest sliver of space between Ball's foot and the 3-point line. That should be a 3.
How about how damn good Solo Ball's been tonight? Sprained ankle, sprained foot coming into the game. We didn't know what type of effort he was going to be able to put forth. And he absolutely has rocked it out tonight. 11 points, 3 threes, hitting big shot after big shot after big shot for Dan Hurley and company, man. The other guys. You know who else I'm proud of? I'm proud of Alex Caravan, man. I mentioned it to start the show. I want to double back and circle back and give him some love. What Alex Caravan has been able to do tonight, some of the big-time shots that he's hit, some of the defensive plays that he's made tonight, for a dude that hadn't showed up in the games prior, the 2 games prior, he was big tonight. They would not be in this game making it interesting here with under 40 seconds to go if it wasn't for Alex Caravan. Dan Hurley referred to him as the babysitter of this basketball team. Babysitter came up big tonight, showed up, had the bed, had the kids tucked in when the parents was on the way home. He's been huge tonight. End of game execution for UConn has been a major talking point throughout the course of this tournament, especially after the Braylon Mullen shot. It's getting crazy here. Denton, give me up to speed again real quick, because this is nerve-wracking.
So it's a 4-point game, and UConn got the ball back. They fouled a guy from Michigan who missed both free throws. There's under 24 seconds to play a 4-point game. This is going to come down to the wire. And, you talk about UConn not being able to shoot and having the issues. Caravan just missed a 3, got a good look at it, hit the front rim. So Michigan's going to go back to the line. That was a blown chance right there.
Had to score on that possession.
Had to score on that possession. You got a good look, but Caravan, he shot well in the first half. He has not been spectacular in the second half. And the problem is, he's like 30 feet from the basket.
Yeah, but that's a credit to Michigan's ball pressure. They're getting into their action way too far away from the basket. I totally agree with you. Some of this stuff is extending their half court. And it's like, he's not a threat from that range. And he's taking some long ones throughout the course of this game as a result of it. But, man, this has been nuts. We're just getting rolling, man. Championship Monday night edition of Westwood One Sports Night with the youngest in charge, Lynnell Willingham. We'll be boots on the ground at Lucas Oil Stadium coming up a little bit later on tonight. The Kang and North Kakalaki. Josh Graham going to join the program. By the time we get back from break, this thing is going to go final. So we'll give you the final score coming up on the other side of the break, and then we'll get into the big-time breaking news that happened earlier today in the world of college basketball. Despite, the Final Four and the Elite Eight happening, it always has felt like the biggest story throughout this tournament has been who is UNC going to replace Hubert Davis with. They made a big-time coaching hire. We'll give you the details on that, plus a score update next here on Westwood One Sports Night.
North Carolina has hired former Nuggets coach Michael Malone. For the first time in 70 years, the Tar Heels go outside the Carolina family to reset one of college basketball's most powerful brands. Will it prove to be the right move? Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports Night. Here's Lynnell Willingham.
Westwood One Sports Tonight continues with the youngest in charge, Lynnell Willingham, taking you up to 3 a.m. Eastern Time. We have crowned our 2026 national champions. Congratulations to the Michigan Wolverines, cutting down the nets for the first time since 1989. 69-63 win over the UConn Huskies. They overcome a horrific first half from the field that included 0 of 8 from beyond the arc. In this second half, though, you saw the size really start to run its course, and then the same fate that the Wolverines had in the first half, UConn had in the second half. Huskies could not make a shot from the perimeter in the second half. They really, really struggled. And ultimately, those struggles allowed Michigan to open up the gap. And eventually it was so wide that it couldn't be closed by the Huskies. History-making national championship performance for the Michigan Wolverines. Marks the first time in men's college basketball history that a national championship team has a all-transfer portal starting 5. Names like Elliot Cadeau coming up big. We're going to get to Elliot Cadeau coming up here in a second, because if you're UNC, hot damn, him playing well tonight, it's almost like adding insult to injury in terms of what's going on up there in Chapel Hill. But the Michigan Wolverines victorious, 69-63 over the UConn Huskies. Wolverines shot just 38% from the field. They were 2 of 15 on the evening from the three-point line. But this was the key difference. 25 of 28. Their ability to get on the interior, plus 14 in terms of points in the paint. And then their ability to play defense without fouling, man. They led for most of this basketball game. And the big story coming in for the Wolverines was the Axel Lendenberg, right? How healthy was he going to be after turning his ankle in the Final Four matchup? He gave one of the most honest halftime speeches and halftime interviews that you'll ever hear when he was able to catch up with Tracy Wolfson. Said straight up he sucked in the first half. Ankle was bothering him, wasn't able to take advantage of mismatches. But ultimately, they were able to get it done there in the second half. Michigan, your national champions after a 69-63 win over the UConn Huskies. Axel Lendenborg was huge. Moretz Johnson was huge, as he's been all season long. 5 offensive rebounds. I said it over the weekend, man. The bench mob for both teams were going to have to come up big. Roddy Gale Jr., Trey McKinney for the Wolverines, both coming up huge. Roddy Gale only had 4 points, but the 3 offensive rebounds and the 2 blocks, massive, massive difference-making plays in this basketball game. Trey McKinney, we called his number late in this game, knocking down a huge triple. Just a full team effort for the Michigan Wolverines, man. You got to give Dusty May and company credit. And boy, does life come at you fast if you're Dusty May. Think about the state of the Michigan Wolverines program when he took over a couple of seasons ago. They were one of the bottom feeders in all of college basketball. 8-24 overall, 3-17 within the landscape of the Big Ten. Now you're national champions in the span of just 2 seasons, man. Huge, 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 huge win for Michigan. Says a lot about their program, says a lot about Coach May. His rise has been one of the crazier things we've seen here in recent memory in college basketball. And they give him credit, right? This game, in sports in general, life in general, is all about adapting. And in today's landscape, with the new NIL era, your ability to put together the best roster possible to fit what you want to do, I think it's paramount. So shout out to the GM of Michigan. Shout out to Dusty May as well. He gets a lot of credit for putting this team together. I mentioned it. The entire starting 5 for the Michigan Wolverines, all transfers. Changing of the guard here, man, in terms of how you put a roster together in today's day and age in college basketball. The high school athlete in me, I'm crying on the inside, right? National Signing Day used to be something that was huge. It's going to continue to be big, but as these programs begin to utilize the transfer portal even more, the importance, the relevancy of National Signing Day goes totally out the window. Bunch of different layers to get to here in this conversation as we roll throughout the night. Josh Graham going to join us. He is boots on the ground in Indianapolis. He'll be in each locker room, in that Michigan locker room, and then I can only imagine the atmosphere and the vibe in the UConn locker room. I was in the Michigan State locker room, in the Duke locker room after they lost to UConn. The Duke locker room, man, onions were being cut. I'll tell you that. It's the crazy thing about college basketball and sports in general. When you make it this far with a unit, the reality is you'll never have this exact same team ever again. And those are the emotions that come out as the game winds down and as you're in that locker room together for one final time. But tears probably flowing for the Huskies. Bottles are popping for the Michigan Wolverines. They are winners 69-63 over the UConn Huskies. It was Elliot Cadeau coming up big. And think about the way folks were talking about Elliot Cadeau after he decided, to leave the University of North Carolina. People were talking about him like a dog. What I love about Elliot Cadeau is the work that he put in on his individual game. He only averaged 10 points on the season. That was 1 point more than he averaged last year. But his ability to improve as a three-point shooter, last year at the University of North Carolina, shot just 33% from three on 2 attempts per contest. This year, doubles his attempts to 4, shoots at 38% from the three-point line. And that's even, crazier when you consider he entered North Carolina as a freshman shooting 19% from the three-point line. So he's a story of what happens when you work on your game. He is a story of what happens when you decide to put in the work, block out the noise, and don't write back to the haters, so to speak, man. I am thoroughly impressed with him. I think he embodies what this Michigan team was about. And there is, like I say all the time for UConn, there's a grit, there's a toughness that this Michigan team played with. And I give a lot of credit to Dusty May, man. These 5 dudes came from 5 different programs, never played with one another before, having to figure one another out, having to put their egos to the side and do what's best for them overall as a program. I think it's special. I think Dusty May deserves a lot of credit. And as we sit here tonight, 2 big things stick out about this win. One, Michigan's ability to overcome not being able to make shots. That is 110% just straight resilience and finding a different way to win. And then the other part of this that I keep referring to, we're witnessing a changing of the guard in the world of college basketball. The team building strategy of the Wolverines is the first time that we'll see a all transfer portal starting 5 for a national championship game. Guarantee you it won't be the last time. Guarantee you it won't be the last time. This is going to be how the top teams maneuver here moving forward. So as much as we, go through the freshman class rankings with a fine-tooth comb, 24/7 Sports, they also rank the top transfer portals in all of college basketball. Time to start looking at that just as diligently because it matters. It matters. And in today's day of college basketball, this is what it's about now moving forward. Can you put together the best roster possible?
Really insane discipline by Michigan for a majority of the game, by the way. And you kind of touched on this. But the fact that they were the more physical team but didn't foul, and some of that was the officials, didn't love the officiating, admittedly.
Officiating was horrible on both sides, but I thought really in favor of Michigan, if I'm being real.
But the fact that they were consistently the aggressor on defense, but played with a level of discipline to where they weren't committing ticky-tack fouls and they weren't making it obvious to the refs when they were fouling. I mean, if you would have told us at the beginning of the game, hey, who's the more physical team? I think most people would say it's probably going to be UConn.
Right.
That's just the style that they play in the Big East. We saw them kind of do it against Duke. We saw them kind of do it against Michigan State. They did it in the Big East tournament. Like, that's a physical brand of basketball. And the Big Ten traditionally is not known for that style, right? They play like a different style in league play, and then when they meet physicality in the tournament, this is usually why they get blown out and they lose, and why they haven't won a championship in nearly 30 years. So the fact that Michigan was able to be the aggressor but also do so in a way that was disciplined, that's a real salute, tip of the cap. I'm not wearing a hat. You're not wearing a hat. But if we were, tipping of the cap to Dusty May and saying, this is a hell of a job.
Doing a really excellent job playing defense without fouling. That was one of the big difference makers here in this basketball game. Foul discrepancy was 22-13 in favor of Michigan. Only 13 fouls called on the Wolverines, 22 fouls called on the Huskies. And to Denton's point, man, yeah, the officials were kind of working in favor of Michigan a little bit. But for the most part, man, you really saw the length stick out for the Wolverines. I talked about it in the opening of the show, man. The way that they're able to extend their ball pressure and to not let you get into your action the way that you want. I mean, like, they dictated pace on both ends of the floor. They dictated the way this game was going to be played on both ends of the floor in the second half in particular. I got to keep going back, though, and giving UConn credit. On paper, they were supposed to get run out the gym. In all honesty, Michigan was the more talented team, 1 through 8. Straight up. Yet, the discipline of UConn to follow Dan Hurley's game plan to a T. It's a testament to Coach Hurley. It's a testament to their staff. Those kids are bought in. Those kids are bought into what he wants to accomplish. And in that first half, you could tell they weren't listening to the media members and reading the press clippings, because guess what? No one really gave UConn a shot. I even said it on this very network. I thought they were going to get blown out. I could have saw a scenario in which they got dog walked. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Their ability, as Denton Day put it, to say never say die. It's the special part about their program, and they take after the mentality of their head coach, man. I go back to the foul trouble issues that the Huskies got into early in this game, talking about Solo Ball and Silas Demery picking up 2 fouls, both being sent to the bench. And you see Malachi Smith and Jaden Ross come in. They both played 20 minutes tonight and came up huge. Came up huge. They weren't the reason that, UConn ultimately came up short. Wasn't their fault. They played big tonight. And I think when you can get that type of production off of your bench and not really miss a beat, it's a testament to your program. I keep telling y'all think Dan Hurley is acting out here. Y'all think Dan Hurley is doing it for the cameras. Brother is 110% authentic. 110% authentic. Yelling, hooping and hollering, cussing kids out at 6 a.m. practices in Storrs, Connecticut. They compete throughout the course of the season. It's why Malachi Smith was ready. You know what I'm saying? It's why Jaden Ross was ready. It's why they were able to come up big when their team needed them the most. We're just getting rolling here with our wall-to-wall coverage of the men's national championship game. The Michigan Wolverines cutting down the nets and are the last team standing for the first time since 1989. Dusty May with one of the best turnarounds in recent memory. 69-63, the Wolverines victorious. We'll let you hear the final call. Plus, we'll get into the biggest news of the day. UNC finally has filled their head coaching vacancy as the portal opens up in a matter of about 22 minutes. Who'd they fill it with? In the electric call on behalf of Westwood One Sports. Next.
Michigan wins its first title since 1989. The Wolverines are on top of the college basketball world. A moment 37 years in the making. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports Night. Here's Lynnell Willingham.
Westwood One Sports Night continues with the youngest in charge, Lynnell Willingham, taking you up to 3 a.m. Eastern Time. National championship game in the books. The Michigan Wolverines, the last man standing. 69-63 winners over the UConn Huskies in a game that, honestly, guys, I would describe as like a bar fight in terms of how things went throughout the course of the first half. Michigan was 0 of 8 from the three-point line. 0 of 8 from the three-point line. As I give Michigan credit here, I want to continue to give credit to UConn in terms of their execution in that first half and really punching above their weight class in terms of Michigan was the better team 1 through 8, man. They're just better. Bigger, better in transition, shot the three-point better. And in that first half, you couldn't tell. Throughout the first 5 games of this NCAA tournament, Michigan was on a tear, specifically in the first half of games. They were averaging 48 points in the first half. They were shooting 45% from the three-point line. Tonight, in that first half, the Huskies held Michigan to just 33 points in the first half. 0 for 8 from the three-point line. Just 4 points off of the bench. And I thought, man, the headline was going to be if UConn won this game. I was willing to come on here and talk about Coach Hurley as being one of the greatest coaches of all time. Not just one of the greatest men's college basketball coaches, but greatest coaches, period, because of the run that he's gone on here with UConn. But even in a loss, I got to give him credit. The way that they fought, the way that they overcame the adversity throughout the course of the game. I've referenced it several times here now. Silas Demery, solo ball, both getting in early foul trouble here. And then for their guys to be able to come off of the bench and not really skip a beat, talking about Malachi Smith and Jaden Ross. It is a testament to what Coach Hurley has built out there in Storrs, Connecticut. From here on out, in this transfer portal era, as the game of college basketball and college athletics continues to change, on the men's side in hoops, as everything changes, I think one thing's going to remain a constant through the course of the next 5-10 years, as long as Coach Hurley's on the bench. UConn, by hook or by crook, through hell or high water, are going to be one of the last teams standing. They have figured it out. And I know they lost tonight. And I know it probably sounds like I had some money on the Huskies. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But I'm impressed by the way that they fought. But as much credit as I want to give, UConn, tonight is about Michigan and what they were able to accomplish. Dusty May pulling off one of the best turnarounds in recent memory in terms of the world of college basketball and what that program was when he took it over a couple of seasons ago. It is absolutely incredible what we've seen from Dusty May. They were 8-24 overall, 3-17 within the Big Ten. And Dusty May sprinkled his magic fairy sauce and figured this thing out, man. They're now national champions. And think about this for Dusty May. Turned down an opportunity to take the North Carolina job. And now he's hoisted the national championship trophy. Can you say he's going to get Piz aid? Come on, man. This is what it's all about. But for Michigan, the bigger picture story, in my opinion, is now, is this how you build a team in today's day and age? Is this how you build a team in today's day and age in college basketball? First starting 5 to ever win a natty with all transfer portal guys. Amazing feat. First time it happened. Damn sure ain't going to be the last time that it's happened. I think to see a champion and a championship team built this way, it's impressive, man. 310-840-4910 is the number. We're going to get into the big news of the day in the world of sports coming up momentarily as we give you an update on who is now manning the controls in Chapel Hill. But Johnny is in Atlanta wanting to chime in and give his reaction on the national championship game. Welcome to Westwood One Sports Night, brother. What you got for us, man?
What's going on? Congratulations to Michigan, Dusty May, and that GM. I don't know who the GM was, but they built a perfect team. The first thing when they won, the first thing I looked at, how much they spent in NIL money. They only spent $10 million to build that team, while BYU spent $7 million on one player. North Carolina probably spent $4 million on one player. And I don't know how much Arizona spent, but that shows you if you go get the right guys and not just go for one player and go for a team, you're going to win a championship. So whoever that GM was who built that team, I think an NBA team would be knocking at his door. Because he built, like you said, he built it in 1 year. And what you said, I agree with you. This is the new day and age. Let's recruit young kids to sit, but let's build through the portal, and let's try to win through the portal. And let's try to groom kids to become players, and not just, buy the one big-name player. You know what I'm saying? So that's my take on it.
I think, look, and I appreciate the call, Johnny. I think what Michigan showed tonight is, this is probably going to be the best way to do it moving forward. But I'll still maintain that there's more than one way to skin a cat. I'll still maintain that there's more than one way to skin a cat. I think you're still going to see teams that, have the star-studded freshmen advance far. It won't be the last. This won't be the only time that you see an all-transfer portal starting five. But it doesn't mean that, the high school recruiting and building a team that way, it doesn't mean that way a team building is dead per se. I just think this is the new hot fad. This is what's in. And the thing is, not every program is going to have a guy like Dusty May who knows exactly what he wants and who makes all of the right decisions. Here's what I'd love to know. They got an all-transfer portal starting five. How many of their top targets did they land in the portal? Because that's going to be a fascinating conversation coming up here in terms of what's going to happen next in Chapel Hill. You have to. In today's day and age of college basketball, you got to be able to jug and finesse your way through the portal. And Dusty May and company, not only did they jug and finesse their way through the portal was life. Polo. The portal only lives once. That's how you got to treat it, man. Every time you enter this bad boy. Jesus M., who just rose, types at us in the YouTube chat. It says, can we pump the brakes on Dusty May? Can you spell his name right? You can tell you're a Tar Heel fan. Spelled it M-A-Y-E. You can hit us up on the YouTube chat. You can stream the show there nightly as well. Just search Westwood One Sports Night. I don't even think, damn pumping the brakes on Dusty May. We got to talk about him and call a spade, man. That brother, smooth criminal, soft smile, not the most intimidating face in the world. He doesn't look like he gets angry ever. But, man, he's pushing the right buttons and has the ability to get the most out of guys and to deal with all the different personalities that he brought into that program this year without not having them together for a long period of time. I think it's impressive. He deserves as much credit as anybody for what happened here tonight and for what Michigan was able to accomplish throughout the course of the season. And what's beautiful about the Wolverines this year, this was all season long they dominated and looked like one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the world of college basketball. The other piece is this. I hate that I have to do this. Big Ten, I'm sorry. Big Ten, you all, without a shadow of a doubt, now that it's all said and done, now that the paint has dried, so to speak, the dust is settled, the food is digested, whatever analogy you want me to use, damn it. The Big Ten is the best basketball conference in America in the year of our Lord, 2026. Hot damn. It feels so wrong saying it. It does. Because I still got my personal gripes and vendettas against the conference. But between Michigan being the last team standing and then all the representation that the Big Ten had, in the final weekend and from the Sweet 16 on, this is the best conference in the world of college basketball. What I'm excited about now and what I think everyone's looking forward to as the clock's about to strike midnight here, coming up here soon, how do you retool? What's next? Our coverage just getting started here in the men's national championship game. Our pal Josh Graham, boots on the ground in Indianapolis. He'll join us coming up in about an hour or so. Big-time breaking news, though, in the world of college basketball. The Michigan Wolverines, they're the last team standing. There's one last coach standing in terms of the UNC hiring process. We'll tell you the new head man in Chapel Hill next here on Westwood One Sports Night.
This is Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
This is Westwood One Sports Night. Here's Lynnell Willingham.
No timeouts remaining. Smith will bring it up the floor quickly. Smith on the drive to the rim. Missed the layup. Rebound loose. Scooped up by Gale. He'll throw it to the other end of the floor. Caravan tracks it down with 2 seconds. With one, he throws it to half court. And since 1989, there's been a blank space in the Michigan Trophy case. Will write their name. Michigan, the 2026 Men's Basketball National Champions. They knock off UConn 69-63 to win the school's second Men's Basketball Championship.
One team remaining in the landscape of college basketball, the Michigan Wolverines, 69-63 winners. Kevin Kugler on the call for Westwood One Sports. Michigan, man, after a season in which it kind of felt like they were always in that conversation of being one of the 3 or 4 best teams in college basketball, their run that they went on throughout the course of this tournament, pure dominance. Give major credit to the Huskies. They gave a valiant effort. It made this one, really, really close and made it dramatic at the end. But ultimately, Michigan, their size just too much for the UConn Huskies. Morez Johnson, Murray, Elliot Cadeau, Yaxel Lendenborg, all those guys came up big. Now that Michigan is the last team standing in the world of college basketball, the Big Ten Conference, first conference in Division I history to have 3 different schools win national championships in football, men's basketball, and women's basketball in the same academic year. Kurt Signetti and the Hoosiers came up big during the early winter. And then yesterday, Lauren Betts and the UCLA Bruins coming up big over South Carolina, man. Talking text line wide open for you at 310-840-4910 if you want to give your reaction to what happened in the national championship game. Our wall-to-wall coverage just getting rolling here on Westwood One Sports Night. This portion of the show brought to you by our friends at Robinhood. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Learn more and get started today with Robinhood at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. New national champion crowned as the Michigan Wolverines knock off the UConn Huskies. That just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we're going to get to here tonight. Mike Malone hired as the new head coach in Chapel Hill. He will lead the UNC men's basketball program moving forward. I'll give you my thoughts on that. We had a big-time trade request in the NFC East. We'll get you the details on that. We'll go around the NBA. The Bulls cleaning house. The Lakers dealing with major injuries as they get geared up for the postseason. Victor Wembanyama went down tonight, and guess what? Giannis and the Bucks fighting again. 3 minutes past the hour right here on the East Coast. The transfer portal officially open in the world of men's college basketball. One program that's got to pay extra close attention to the transfer portal is the University of North Carolina. Massive changes coming to their program earlier this afternoon. Really shocking news if you've been following this thing closely, because the name that the Tar Heels landed on was not someone that had been rumored throughout the course of this process. Mike Malone, former NBA champion with the Denver Nuggets. He now takes his talents to Chapel Hill to lead that basketball program, and hopefully, if you're a Tar Heels fan, provide the shot in the arm that Hubert Davis could not. The most important thing moving forward when it comes to the University of North Carolina, now that this hire has been made, is will the boosters, will the program be aggressive in terms of providing Mike Malone the necessary resources to get North Carolina back to the island of relevancy, so to speak. This is the University of North Carolina, one of the biggest brands in the world of college athletics. So the fact that they have been one and done in the tournament the past 2 seasons, the fact that they haven't hoisted the national championship trophy since when? Was it 2017? They got to get back on the good foot in terms of the University of North Carolina. They got to figure things out. The hope is that Mike Malone is the guy to do that. I'll be honest, though. I was totally stunned when this news was made public. The way that I'm looking at it, UNC landed a coach at the buzzer as things kind of came together this morning. With the portal opening up as it did 4 minutes ago, we hadn't really been talking about this throughout the course of the process, but today was the soft deadline for North Carolina to hire a guy. You could not go into the portal without having your guy secured on the end of the bench. And that deadline, in my opinion, based off of who they hired, that deadline spurred them to make a decision, caused them to make a decision that wasn't at the top of their list. Based off of who they hired, it's clear they didn't get their first choice. They didn't get their second choice. They didn't get their third choice. We know they missed out on Tommy Lloyd as he signed an extension. We knew that Dusty May had turned them down. Rumor has it that Billy Donovan simply was not willing to speak to them until Sunday when the NBA season finished up. Nate Oates signed an extension yesterday, I believe. So as this process got further and further and deeper and deeper into this thing, North Carolina was forced to, as I like to say, shake a leg or lose one. North Carolina had to make a decision and do what was best for business. And what was best for business was bringing in Mike Malone. I'll say this on first blush, right? From just a pure basketball standpoint, this is a solid hire. From a pure basketball standpoint, bringing in Mike Malone is a solid hire. The question that I have moving forward is, how did they get to Mike Malone? How did they get to Mike Malone? You're the University of North Carolina. For you to get stood up at the altar by several different candidates and have several different candidates tell you, thanks, but no thanks, I think it kind of tells you the state of the program and the state of college athletics, man. You got to be more than just your brand in 2026 in college basketball. You can't just rely on that baby blue and white. You got to have resources, and you have to have a buy-in from everyone in the program that you're going to give whoever's in charge the necessary resources to compete in this ever-changing landscape of college athletics. And I think if you're UNC, I can't go any further but then to say this is a solid hire. What I keep getting hung up on, though, is this. How did you end up on Mike Malone, a name that had not been mentioned throughout the entirety of this process? One of the godfathers of reporting when it comes to college basketball, Pete Thamel, he did a SportsCenter hit earlier this afternoon and had this to say about how the Tar Heels landed on Mike Malone.
Well, Jay, it came together fairly quickly. There was some initial interest in Mike Malone when the search started. Carolina elected to look elsewhere for a little bit. They circled back to him in the last few days, and Malone accepted the job in the past few hours. Michael Malone is one of the best coaches of basketball in the world. He's obviously been an analyst for us recently, won an NBA championship with the Denver Nuggets. His respect as a tactician, I think, is really important here. Michael Jordan, Roy Williams, the Carolina brass, the gold standard of Carolina, really endorsed Michael Malone as the school's next head coach.
The thing that gets me, you can hit us up with your opinions on UNC landing on Mike Malone as the program's next head coach at 310-840-4673. 4910. You can hit us up in the YouTube chat as well. Just search Westwood One Sports Night on YouTube to stream the show nightly. The thing that I keep getting caught up on is what Pete Thamel said towards the end of that bite. They circled back to Mike Malone. What did he mean by that? What he meant by that is that UNC did not, as I mentioned a moment ago, did not land their first option, their second option, their third option. Damn it, they may not have landed their fourth option. How far down the list was Mike Malone? Because I'm telling you, based off of the reaction of folks out in Indianapolis, and we'll get more of that reaction when our pal Josh Graham joins us coming up in about an hour or so. He'll be boots on the ground on the court out there at Lucas Oil Stadium, fresh out of both of the locker rooms. We'll get the King and North Kakalaki's thoughts on this because, as I continue to say, as excellent of an NCAA tournament as this has been, climaxing tonight with Michigan winning the whole damn thing, as good of a tournament as it's been, there's always been this backdrop. It's always felt like the basketball itself has been playing second fiddle to the UNC job opening, the biggest story in the world of sports over the past couple of weeks, it feels like. That story moving on to its latest chapter after Mike Malone, former NBA champion with the Denver Nuggets, he is now the new head man in Chapel Hill. He will lead the North Carolina men's basketball program into the future. The question that I continue to have here, and we'll talk about it as we roll throughout the show. First and foremost, right? Question aside, I keep going back to it. I don't think you landed one of your top three options. So to fire Hubert Davis and then not land on a coach until 12 hours before the portal opens up, a little bit behind the eight ball, aren't you? It's tough. But I think it speaks to where North Carolina is as a program, and I think it speaks to the landscape of college basketball right now, man. It's more than just your brand. You're going to have to sell guys on more than just your school's lineage and rich tradition in history. You got to lay it on, put it on the flow. Show me the money. That's what college basketball is about nowadays. But put that to the side in terms of did they land their top option or not. Bottom line is, in your first time hiring outside of the family, you land on a guy who's never done the job before. Like, that's the reality of it. And I'm not trying to look at this with a glass half empty, but the bottom line is he's never done this before in terms of being a head man at the collegiate level. This is different than the NBA. It is. But despite him never doing this before, it could be worse, right? He has won a championship on the NBA level. And the way that folks talk about him in basketball circles, you can't find me a person who has anything negative to say about Mike Malone, the tactician, about Mike Malone, the X's and O's guy. The problem that he ran into with Denver, with his players and that front office, is that bottom line, he's a tough dude to work with. He's a jackass. Dudes don't like him. He is a porcupine, so to speak, man. And this is where I get to shout out my OG Rick Doc Walker. Sometimes you need that in a program. 1-800-RENT-A-JERK. You need a guy that's going to come in and put his foot up people's ass. I know Mike Malone knows how to do that. So in terms of how he translates from the NBA game to the collegiate game, I can see it going both ways. I can see it working out and him garnering the respect of young men and being able to establish a culture early on in his tenure. Or, remember what I say the most important trait is to have if you're a coach. You got to know who you can pat on the back to kind of get on them and who you got to put your foot up their ass. Not all kids are created equal. See, this is different. Managing the personalities of 17 to 21-year-olds far more different than managing the personalities of grown-ass men. So it's going to be interesting. Is he going to be Dan Hurley? Is he going to be Mick Cronin? Kind of how I look at it, man. Fascinating hire, though, for North Carolina. I think if you're a fan of this program, It's solid in terms of, from a pure basketball standpoint, which to me, that was the bare minimum. You had to make at least a solid hire. You're the University of North Carolina, damn it. You better make at least a solid hire. Come on. This hire, to me, has a chance to work, but he's also going to be under an immense amount of scrutiny because coaching in North Carolina, much different than coaching the Denver Nuggets. You're in a glass house right now. Everybody's going to have an opinion about the job that you do here in Chapel Hill. And for a dude that's never done it before, the most important piece of this thing for Mike Malone has got to be the infrastructure. Who does he surround himself with? Do they make changes structurally in terms of the front office? Bunch of different ways that this thing can go in terms of Mike Malone now being hired at the University of North Carolina. Talking text line wide open for you here on a national championship edition of Westwood One Sports Night. It is the People's Show. You can hit us up on the talking text line 310-840-4910. You can stream the show nightly on YouTube as well. Just search Westwood One Sports Night. Let's go out to the phones. Our guy, Mr. Positive, in a celebratory mood after his Michigan Wolverines are the last team standing in the world of college basketball. What's going on, Mr. Positive? How are you?
Oh, my God, Lynnell, you want to talk about boom shakalaka. You are doing it right now. Detroit, Michigan, and Michigan is going crazy. We were out-rebounded. We couldn't keep up with them with a three-pointer. Oh, my God, bodies flailing. They were going everywhere. It was hustle. It was great defense. It was just the will to win. And I want all my Warriors out there to remember, you got to go for your dreams, just like Michigan. You just can't quit. Oh, my God, Lynnell, it's going crazy. We needed this in Detroit. You know how bad Detroit is, not the city, but our sports teams. I mean, the Red Wings can't do it. The Pistons hopefully will go far, but you and I know that they can't shoot the three-pointer, and they're gonna go second round. The Tigers aren't doing well. The Lions aren't doing well. We needed this shot in the arm, Lynnell. Oh, my God, you guys. Fantastic. We're going crazy. Thank you, Lynnell. Hope all is well.
Yes, indeed. Appreciate the call, Mr. Positive. Then what you got, man?
If there was ever a day to substitute Warriors for Wolverines,
yeah, I know, right?
I feel like today was the day.
No, you hit it right on the head. You hit it right on the head. Mr. Positive and everybody out there in Michigan doing cartwheels right now as the Wolverines, the last team standing for the first time since 1989. Dusty May with one of the best two-year turnarounds that we've seen in recent memory in the world of college basketball. 8-24, 3-17 in the Big Ten 2 years ago. Now they are national champions. The Michigan Wolverines, 69-63 winners over the UConn Huskies. We'll have live coverage out from Indianapolis coming up momentarily as our pal Josh Graham going to join us. He's boots on the ground out at Lucas Oil Stadium. He was in the UConn locker room. He was in the Michigan locker room. We'll get the latest from Indianapolis as we roll throughout the course of this show. As I mentioned, though, the big-time breaking news in the world of college basketball, hell, in the world of sports, the North Carolina Tar Heels, man, after 2 weeks of not having a head coach, they have finally made a decision. Mike Malone, the new head man in Chapel Hill, longtime college basketball insider for CBS Sports, John Rothstein. He spoke on a key factor in the Tar Heels landing on Mike Malone, and it'll stun you. I'll let you hear from John Rothstein next.
North Carolina has hired former Nuggets coach Michael Malone. For the first time in 70 years, the Tar Heels go outside the Carolina family to reset one of college basketball's most powerful brands. Will it prove to be the right move? Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will be in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports Night. Here's Lynnell Willingham.
Interest in Mike Malone when the search started.
With the youngest in Charles, Lynnell Willingham, taking you coast to coast, giving you wall-to-wall coverage of the Michigan Wolverines, the last man standing in the world of college basketball. Dusty May completing one of the best two-year turnarounds in the history of college basketball when he took over that Michigan program. 8-24 overall, 3-17 within the confines of the Big Ten, and now national champion. Shout out to Dusty May in the Michigan Wolverines. Here is how the final call sounded on behalf of Westwood One Sports.
UConn will inbound. It's Smith. They have no timeouts remaining. Smith will bring it up the floor quickly. Smith on the drive to the rim. Missed the layup. Rebound loose. Scooped up by Gale. He'll throw it to the other end of the floor. Caravan tracks it down with 2 seconds. With 1, he throws it to half court. And since 1989, there's been a blank space in the Michigan Trophy case. Well, write their name. Michigan, the 2026 men's basketball national champions. They knock off UConn 69-63 to win the school's second men's basketball championship.
Our Kevin Kugler on the call for Westwood One Sports. 69-63 win for the Michigan Wolverines. I'm impressed by both of these teams. I'll start with Michigan here. I mentioned what Dusty May has done since taking over that program. It becomes the first time in NCAA history that a all-transfer portal starting 5 goes on, and wins the national championship game. I think this win tonight for Michigan officially signals a change of the guard in terms of how you team build in the year 2026 in college basketball. I think it's a big testament to Dusty May and his ability to kind of blend all of these unique personalities in a short period of time. And they obviously are able to reach the top of the mountain, hoisting the national championship trophy, cutting down the nets. An impressive performance for Michigan. I think the most impressive piece of it for Michigan for me is the fact that all year long, the best way that I can put it, man, all year long, it's like the Michigan Wolverines had pretty boy swag, right? Knocking down shots from 3, getting out in transition. They were the bigger, badder team all year long. Tonight, as I mentioned, 0 of 8 from the field, from the three-point line in the first half, struggled to find their shots. It was a backyard brawl, a alley fight between UConn and Michigan in that first half, and Michigan showed that there are multiple ways to skin a cat, so to speak. They have multiple fighting styles. They're like a southpaw. You know what I'm saying? They have the ability to play that game where it's high scoring, where they can go tit for tat and go jump shot for jump shot with you. But tonight they go from pretty boy swag to hard knock life. Everything that you got out of the Wolverines tonight, they earned it. Offensive rebound, extra possession after extra possession, dominating in terms of points in the paint, dominating in terms of their ability to get to the free throw line. It was a masterclass performance for the University of Michigan, and the fact that they were able to show, hey, we can put a little elbow grease on it too. I loved everything about the performance, man. Everyone talked about the toughness of UConn coming into this one. Well, Michigan said, hold my beer, we're just as tough. We're just as tough. And I think all year long, they've kind of had to answer that question. And throughout the course of the NCAA tournament, before they got to tonight, they were dominant in this tournament. Nobody really challenged them throughout the course of this thing. And tonight you really saw them dial in, overcome the adversity earlier. Yaxel Lendenborg comes into this thing injured. He was brutally honest at halftime. I want to actually let you all hear that if we got it ready for you. Yaxel Lendenborg at half, I thought, gave one of the most brutally honest halftime interviews that you'll ever hear. He was a game-time decision tonight. I know he said, yeah, I'm going to give it a go, but the way that he turned his ankle the other night, major question marks about his availability going into tonight. Wasn't very good in the first half, and he told Tracy Wolfson all about it.
I feel awful. I feel super weak right now. I can't make anything. Oh, man. I'm trying to push through, obviously, because, it's a championship game and all that, but, man, I'm missing plays that I don't usually miss. I have many opportunities to take advantage of the smaller defender. Haven't been able to do it. I'm going to go in there at half, do as much as I can, and try to feel a lot better, and then come out here more aggressive.
Well, knowing that you guys have just 20 minutes to win a national championship, what will it take?
Everything, no matter what type of knee pain I'm in, man, I got to go out there and give it my best. I played really soft that first half, and I'm gonna be way better second half.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, man.
He might be the most honest athlete.
Keeping it 8 more than 92. Yaxel Lendenborg, straight up telling you, I sucked during the first half, Miss Tracy.
Just a very casual mention of him, too. There's like, oh, it's just the national championship game and all that.
Yeah.
Like, only the national championship game. I just stink right now.
I love the honesty, though, man. And the one thing that I loved, and I thought both teams did a good job of, they did a good job of not being engulfed by the moment, not letting the moment capture you. They were sharp. They were sharp. I know the jump shots weren't falling, but in terms of, like, the way that they played, it was good, clean basketball, man. Good, clean basketball. It was physical. Both of these teams did their best to limit the other team to just one possession. I thought Michigan did a really good job playing defense without fouling and using their wingspan and using their length. It was awesome to see. I want to give the Huskies some love here for a second, though. So I'll be very real. In the world of sports talk radio, we had two different openings for tonight. Two different scenarios, two different shows built, if we're being transparent. The show, if Michigan won, and obviously having that conversation about, well, is this the greatest Michigan team of all time? And are we witnessing a changing of the guard in terms of team building in college basketball? The other show that I had planned, I was going to be Dan Hurley Jr. up here. I'm telling you, even though they lost, if he would have won tonight, it would have been 3 national championships in the span of 4 years. Not only was I willing to call him the greatest men's college basketball coach of all time, I'm getting ready to open up the door. Had a conversation about whether or not he deserves to be on the Mount Rushmore of coaches, period. And I still feel that way. Maybe not the Mount Rushmore part. But I still feel uber confident about where he stands in the landscape of college basketball, because this run that they've been on is unprecedented, man. Super duper impressive. And the other thing that I keep going back to, and we hit this hard over the course of the weekend, this was his least talented team. Which means, in turn, for Dan Hurley, this was his best coaching job that he's done in his time at UConn. And there were a couple of individual performances tonight that really highlighted, even though they lost, that really highlighted what UConn basketball is about, what that crazy bastard Dan Hurley is about. And I say that in the most flattering way possible, right? Dan Hurley, Kurt Signetti, my spirit animals. If I could fall asleep to your press conferences, if I could fall asleep to the sound of your voice, you got a special place in the YIC's heart. I love everything that Dan Hurley is about. The way that he wore his emotions on his sleeve and really instilled a culture down there in Storrs, Connecticut. And I'm glad they highlighted it throughout our Westwood One broadcast. They highlighted it throughout the TV broadcast. They don't go out and recruit everybody. You know what I'm saying? It takes a certain type of individual to have the mental fortitude, to have the grapefruits, to be coached by Dan Hurley. Dan Hurley's not Dan Hurley doesn't kiss ass. That's not what he does. Dan Hurley's a guy that's going to get the absolute best out of everybody that plays, everybody that's on the roster, no matter if you're going on to be an NBA lottery pick or if you're going on to sell, car insurance. The goal of his, when you enter that program, is that you leave a much better person, more importantly, a much better young man. And despite them losing tonight, I think you saw instances throughout this game where his team took after his character. Braylon Mullins tonight. Think about what he's been known for through this tournament, throughout the course of the season. One of the more rated freshmen throughout the course of the year. In this year in which we've had this freshman explosion, Braylon Mullins has kind of flown under the radar. Tonight, the shot didn't fall at the clip that we know it can, right? Braylon Mullins tonight, 4 of 17, 3 of 10 from beyond the arc, 7 rebounds, 3 offensive rebounds. The way that kid flew around, that is UConn Huskies basketball. That's scratching, clawing, grit, toughness personified. It is what it is. He should have been out there in the Husky mascot gear. He embodies what it means to be a Husky, man. Loved the performance out of him because the shot wasn't falling, and he still had his fingerprints all over this basketball game. I mentioned the adversity that UConn had to overcome at the beginning of this game. Two dudes that have been unsung heroes from the jump street with UConn. Silas Demery, Solo Ball. And Ball, big questions about, how impactful he was going to be tonight because of the foot injury that he suffered. Shook the dirt off his shoulders, put his hard hat on, and went to work. Him and Silas Demery, awesome tonight. But the problem that UConn ran into is that those two dudes got in foul trouble. And when they got in foul trouble early, I know what a lot of people were thinking. Well, this is it for UConn. They can't overcome this type of adversity. Their margin for error is super duper small. But what's special about this program and the telltale sign of an elite program is don't look at the name on the back of the jersey. Look at the name on the front of the jersey. All these dudes play at one speed, play at one pace, play with one sort of gear. They go balls to the wall. And it's why when Demery and Solo Ball get in foul trouble early in this thing, Malachi Smith, Jaden Ross off of the bench, only combined for 9 points. But it's the 4 offensive rebounds that those dudes created. 4 extra possessions. And in a game like this, in which you only lose by 6 points, those extra possessions matter. And for those two dudes to come in for Solo Ball and Silas Demery and not skip a beat, that's what UConn Huskies basketball is about. And that's why Dan Hurley, despite not having, the most talented team in the landscape of college basketball, they're going to find a way to be in the fight 7 days out of the week and twice on Sundays. So shout out to UConn, although they came up short, a valiant effort from the Huskies. Dan Hurley continuing to prove his worth and why he should have a lifetime contract out in Storrs, Connecticut. The big story, though, the Michigan Wolverines showing the rest of the college basketball world that the best hoop, the best bump resides in the big, bad Big Ten. They get it done 69-63 over the UConn Huskies. Dusty May with one of the best 2-year turnarounds you've ever seen in the history of college basketball, man. Just 2 seasons ago, 3-17 in Big Ten play. Fast forward 2 years, now they are national champions, man. A special moment for the Michigan Wolverines. Had everybody contribute. This all transfer portal starting 5 showing that, if you got the right blend of dudes and you have the right characters within the locker room, doesn't take a whole lot of time to get everybody gelled together and to get everyone on the same page. With this win for Michigan, the Big Ten also became the first conference in Division I history to have 3 different schools win national championships in football with Indiana, and men's basketball with the Wolverines, and then yesterday in women's basketball, Lauren Betts and company knocking off South Carolina. Our pal Josh Graham, the Kang of North Kakalaki, boots on the ground in Indianapolis. He was in the UConn locker room. He was in the Michigan locker room. He's going to join us coming up here momentarily as we continue to give you wall-to-wall coverage of the men's national championship game. Michigan knocking off UConn to hoist their first national championship since 1989. We'll continue our wall-to-wall coverage next. This portion of the show sponsored by our pals at Progressive Commercial Insurance. Progressive protects small businesses with affordable coverage options. Get a quote today at progressivecommercial.com.
Michigan wins its first title since 1989. The Wolverines are on top of the college basketball world. A moment 37 years in the making. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Sports Night. Here's Lynnell Willingham.
UConn will inbound. It's Smith. They have no timeouts remaining. Smith will bring it up the floor quickly. Smith on the drive to the rim. Missed the layup. Rebound loose. Scooped up by Gale. He'll throw it to the other end of the floor. Caravan tracks it down with 2 seconds. With 1, he throws it to half court. And since 1989, there's been a blank space in the Michigan Trophy case. Will write their name. Michigan, the 2026 Men's Basketball National Champions. They knock off UConn 69-63 to win the school's second Men's Basketball Championship.
The beautiful sounds of Kevin Kugler on the call for Westwood One Sports as the Michigan Wolverines, the last team standing in the world of college basketball, 69-63 winners over the UConn Huskies. Dusty May capping off one of the best two-year runs and two-year turnarounds in the history of college basketball. Just 2 seasons ago, guys, we said it several times throughout the course of the show, they were 3-17 in the Big Ten. 8-24 overall. Fast forward to the year of our Lord, 2026, and now they are national championships. Now they're national champions. Our guy Josh Graham going to be on the scene from Indianapolis coming up in about 15 minutes as he joins us here on the program. He's been in the Michigan locker room. He's been in the UConn locker room. He'll give us wall-to-wall coverage of what the vibes are like out there in Indianapolis coming up in about 15 minutes. It is the People's Show. Talking text line wide open for you per usual here on Westwood One Sports tonight with the youngest in charge, Lynnell Willingham, 310-840-4910, 310-840-4910. We encourage you to hit us up on the YouTube chat as well. Remember, you can stream the show nightly on YouTube. Just search Westwood One Sports Night. And on X, same handle on each and every social media platform. It is at NELL_BTP. Dusty May and company getting her done. And the thing that I've continued to say throughout the course of the show about what Michigan just accomplished, this is what college basketball, this is what college athletics is going to be moving forward. This Michigan team, first national championship group with 5 transfers in the starting lineup. 5 transfers in the starting lineup. That speaks to where the game of college basketball is today in 2026. The days of going after the Gatorade Player of the Year in a certain state is over. The impact and the importance level of dominant freshmen throughout the country is going in the opposite direction. In today's day and age, I know we always like to look at, what type of recruiting class did you bring in? What type of freshman class did you bring in? We now got to start looking at transfer portal rankings. Dusty May deserves a ton of credit. Not everyone's going to be able to do it this way because what Dusty May and company did, although they made it look relatively easy, it's one of the more difficult things to do in the world of sports. When you have a starting 5 where everyone comes from a different walk of life, a different university, you've got to manage egos. You've got to be, steadfast in saying, hey, look, this is your role. Be a star in it. All of that goes back to Dusty May. It takes a special individual to be able to blend those personalities together and have everybody on the same page fighting for the common goal of hoisting that national championship trophy. And that is what Michigan was able to do tonight. I keep saying it. I was impressed by the way that Michigan played tonight. This is a group that throughout the course of the season, right, specifically here in this tournament, they have shot the cover off of the basketball. They were averaging damn near 80 points per contest throughout the course of 80-plus points per contest throughout the course of this tournament. And tonight, in a game in which I didn't think they'd want to play, right? Remember what we talked about over the weekend? And go back to what Dan Hurley said after the first time out when he talked to Tracy Wolfson. They were playing their style of basketball in that first half. They wanted to turn this into a backyard brawl, an alley fight, a bar fight. You know what I'm saying? They wanted to muddy this game up. And I had my questions about whether or not Michigan was tough enough to get into a fist fight with UConn. They handled their business. 110%. They handled their business. Styles make fights. The only chance that UConn had was muddying this game up, forcing turnovers, and the first 1-60, I thought, was going to ultimately win this basketball game. Because you know it. When you're out there at the Final Four and you're playing on a football field, the depth perception is off. The shooters do not stroke the basketball the same way. Both of those teams had to deal with it. I thought UConn was better equipped to deal with it. In that first half, man, if I would have told you before the game that Michigan wasn't going to make a three-pointer in the first half, you would have told me, oh, yeah, UConn money line. I'm all in on UConn. Put it in wax. You would have put the mortgage on UConn. For Michigan to be able to play that style of basketball and show their versatility, and as I put it, the ability to put a little elbow grease on it, to rub some dirt on it, so to speak, and get the hell up and keep chugging, that is what makes this group special. That is what makes this program special. They deserve a ton of credit. Wasn't sexy, wasn't pretty, didn't earn a bunch of style points. They were the more physical team. They were the more aggressive team. And in that second half in particular, you could tell they had a little bit more gas left in their tank. They had a little bit more to offer than what UConn did. But at the end of the day, you saw it in the second half. You can't keep a dog down forever, right? The shot making of Michigan, their shot making ability has started to take over. And once that happened in the second half, it was like, damn, you're kind of screwed here. From an X's and O's standpoint, the thing that stood out the most to me from Michigan, their ability to extend their ball pressure, when you're running offense and you're running your offensive sets and your action and you're running it that far away from the basket the way that UConn was, a lot of the times those passes don't have an impact as you're going side to side because you're still 30 feet away from the basket. You know what I'm saying? So Michigan using their length, extending that ball pressure. The Huskies weren't really a threat from the perimeter from that far out, despite how well they shot it in that first half. And it's crazy. It's almost like, like waiting on the other shoe to drop with the Huskies. We've been saying this all tournament long with them. If they can make shots, they'll win. And all tournament long, they've made shots. They've made shots. They've made shots. In the second half tonight, though, it's like the spout stopped dripping. The dam went dry, so to speak. And they could not knock down any shots. That was the difference maker in this one, though, man. But despite UConn losing, I continue to go back and say it, man. I had two different opens to the show planned for tonight. I had a scenario in which Michigan won, and we have the conversation that we're having now about the changing of the guard in terms of team building in today's day in college athletics. There was also a show open planned to highlight the brilliance and the excellence of UConn head coach Dan Hurley. Because if he would have won tonight, it would have been 3 national championships in the span of 4 years. Not only would I have been gushing about him as the best coach in men's college basketball, we would have began to have a conversation about where he ranks amongst the greatest coaches ever, no matter what the sport is. And tonight, several times throughout this game, you saw the grit, the toughness, the emotion, the never-say-die mentality of Dan Hurley. You saw it ooze out of his players on the floor during this game. I keep referencing their ability to overcome the early foul trouble. When you're a team like UConn that's not as skilled, that's clearly overmatched on paper, your margin for error is razor thin. Your margin for error is razor thin. And when Solo Ball and Silas Demery, when they got into foul trouble earlier in this game, right? When they got into foul trouble earlier in this game, you saw dudes come off of the bench that embody what UConn basketball is about. You saw Jaden Ross and Malachi Smith come in and grab 4 offensive rebounds, creating 4 extra possessions for the UConn Huskies. If those guys, think about it, in a game in which you lost by 6, those dudes coming up big the way that they did, man, it's what UConn Huskies basketball is all about, and their ability to take after the character traits of their head coach says a lot, man. UConn, nothing to hang your hat about, or nothing to hang your head about in terms of how you played in this contest tonight. Michigan, ultimately just the better team. Our wall-to-wall coverage continues here on Westwood One Sports tonight with the youngest in charge, Lynnell Willingham. Coming up next, we take a trip to Indianapolis, Indiana, Lucas Oil Stadium, the home of the Final Four in the national championship game. Our pal Josh Graham out there, boots on the ground. He was in the Michigan locker room. He was in the UConn locker room. We'll hear from him and the play-by-play voice of the Michigan Wolverines, Brian Bosch, next here on Westwood One Sports Night.
This is Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Lynnell Willingham.
In Ann Arbor, they're partying like it's 1989. The Michigan Wolverines coming up huge tonight. 69-63 winners over the UConn Huskies. They are the final team remaining in the landscape of college basketball. This is Westwood One Sports Night with the youngest in charge, Lynnell Willingham. And if you're looking for more reason as to why you should check us out each and every night, it's because we give you exclusive wall-to-wall coverage of the biggest events in the world of sports. We now go out to Indianapolis, where we're courtside with our pal Josh Graham, my co-host here on Westwood One Sports Night, and the play-by-play voice of the Michigan Wolverines, Brian Bosch. Gentlemen, just explain the vibes out there in Indianapolis right now. Brian, I want to start with you. Congratulations, my man. The opportunity of a lifetime, getting to be the play-by-play voice of a national championship program. What are you feeling, brother?
It's emotional. I appreciate you guys having me on. Good to see my buddy Josh here. Man, I was.
Look at these handsome gentlemen, man.
I know. He overdressed. He's a real jerk, but.
Sorry about it.
Hey, face for radio. That's the key. Man, it's been a really special group. That we knew back in November that this team had the ability to win a national championship. When you win 3 games against power conference teams by 110 combined points, the last of which was a 40-point win over Gonzaga, yeah, you're the real deal, but we all know how brutal this tournament can be. The team that Michigan eked past tonight, they did it to the number 1 overall seed in Duke, in a game where Duke led by 19. It never felt easy. This was the game that UConn wanted to play tempo-wise. Michigan only hit 2 threes, but they found a way.
Michigan's only lost 3 games this season, Brian. And throughout this tournament, you guys won in such convincing fashion. Tonight, it reminded me of the Duke loss, where you weren't able, Michigan, to score as prolifically as you normally do. They lost that game close. What was going through your mind when you saw that it was an ugly game and you only have 2 threes made, but this time you guys win the basketball
It's a great point, Josh, because I was thinking that. And you know the difference? Instead of being down a couple of possessions, most of that Duke game, Michigan was up a couple of possessions against UConn. So they at least had that cushion. UConn had a few leads in the first half, but Michigan never trailed after halftime, and they found a way to grind it out. Michigan's guards rebounding was excellent. It's something that Dusty's talked about in the goal of getting out in transition, running. That was impossible against UConn. Credit the Huskies in that regard. They needed it here to survive. Damari Burnett, Trey McKinney, Elliot Cadeau, they found a way. But yeah, that was the difference. The fact that Michigan had the lead still and was able to play a game they didn't want to play from ahead versus they were behind against
Let
Duke.
me follow real quickly. Brian Bush with us here, Michigan play-by-play man. Is this the greatest Michigan basketball team ever? I don't know how you can argue against it. I know it's the sports talk thing to ask that question. But when guys in the locker room are talking about it, and even members of the Fab Five are saying it out loud, how can you argue against it?
Well, my broadcast partner, 1989 national champion Terry Mills, might argue it. However, what he always said was, you have to win it to be in the conversation. Michigan won it. Now they're absolutely in the conversation. I didn't get to experience that. I was born later in 89, so I was not around for that run. I think what that team did may have been more improbable because, remember, Steve Fisher took over. He needed to win 6 games to become the full-time head coach. They won 6 games. That team may have a more unique story, but don't tell Terry, I think this is the best team in Michigan basketball history.
Joined right now, courtside, by our pal Josh Graham and Brian Bosch, the play-by-play voice of the Michigan Wolverines, fresh off of the national championship victory, 69-63. Brian, I got to ask you this, man. We were having this conversation a moment ago during the show. Does this Michigan win kind of signify a changing of the guard from a team-building standpoint in the landscape of college basketball? 5 guys that are all transfers coming together. It's a big credit to Dusty May getting all those personalities to kind of gel with one another and buy into their role.
It's a great question. My opinion is that I think what Dusty May has proven is that you have to be creative with the resources and with the capabilities you have to try to build a roster that can show a proof of concept immediately. Michigan had nowhere near the NIL allotment, the fan enthusiasm that they did going into last season, yet Michigan was still able to find a way to get to the Sweet 16 and win the Big Ten tournament championship, and that allowed Dusty May, mainly with 2 7-footers in Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden, to prove that, yeah, Michigan's the place to go for a front court star or even a front court project, which is what Mara and Johnson were. You need to win right away because you need to show that people in your program and people who you're trying to bring in your program are worth investing in. So in terms of roster build, I think Dusty would rather build more through incoming freshmen and guys that have been in the program for a while. But that is not how you do it when you take over a program, because you have to win right away. Michigan did that last year, and they obviously took it to another level this year.
Last thing for Brian Bush, play-by-play man, Michigan basketball. You're on the road with this team, man. They just won 6 in a row and cut down nets. We're going to let you celebrate in a second, but you're a storyteller by trade, Brian. What's a story from behind the scenes, something we don't get to see that makes tonight even more special, seeing this come into fruition?
For me, it's the 2 guys who were rotation players on the 8-24 team for Michigan 2 years ago, Will Cheddar and Damari Burnett. I was very fortunate, just based on the timing of the chaos, that those were the first 2 players I got to talk to after the game on the court. Will Cheddar lifted me off my feet, which I am not a slight person, so congrats to him on all of his strength. Damari Burnett was crying, and Damari is as rock solid as they come. And Will, he was the first to say yes to Dusty May. And then Will went on recruiting visits or recruits coming to Ann Arbor. He went to dinners. He changed his body to fit a different style of play. This is a dude who graduated an undergrad degree from Michigan in 3 years. He is going to finish a 2-year graduate student program. He is an absolute genius off the floor. But him and Damari, who endured so many injuries in his first 3 years, so much adversity, he started every game in his Michigan career, 8-24, more minutes, more winning, fewer minutes, the most winning, and not literally the fewest minutes since his freshman year at Texas Tech. Those 2 bought in, they believed, they found a way, and it all came from there. If you build it, they will come.
My man, Brian Bush.
Great seeing you, buddy.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks you both for having
Congratulations.
me.
So happy. From Winston-Salem to a national championship voice. You
Go
enjoy it
Winston-Salem Dash.
There we go. Our wall-to-wall coverage continues from Lucas Oil Stadium as our pal Josh Graham joins us live on the scene. He was in the UConn locker room. He was in the Michigan locker room on the heels of the Wolverines cutting down nets 69-63. They hoist the national championship trophy for the first time since 1989. Josh Graham, your first blush reaction, because think about it like this, right? We talked about this game ad nauseum last week. I didn't think UConn was going to be able to keep it close. Why were the Huskies able to stay in this one, Josh? And then what allowed Michigan ultimately pull away there in the winning moments?
Part of it was Michigan not being able to hit any outside shots. 2 of 15 from 3 after they shot close to 50% on Saturday in the win against Arizona, certainly north of 40%. So that's a piece of it. Also, UConn, Dan Hurley on the national broadcast pretty much gave away the game in his interview with Tracy Wolfson, saying, this is going to be a bar fight.
Yep.
And they decided to turn this game, Lynnell, into a Big Ten basketball game. And they felt that was their best shot to win. And that's what came to mind when, you saw a game in the 60s that Michigan fell against Duke. It seemed that was the game plan because UConn is a top 10 defensive efficiency team in college basketball. And the reason why they picked up so many fouls is because they knew they had to get physical and hope that the officiating would relent and saying, well, we can't call fouls on everything. They did call a lot of it tonight, and a lot of them were fouls that they were called for. And in the end, Michigan proved to be tougher. Michigan held on to a game where they didn't shoot the basketball well. And this is the greatest Michigan team of all time. That 89 team lost 7 games. This team only lost 3. That 89 team, 5 of the 6 wins were by single digits, including a 1-point win over our Westwood One teammate, P.J. Carlissimo's Seton Hall team in the championship. This team won 5 of 6, something we've never seen before, by double digits scoring 90 points. This is the greatest Michigan team ever, and it needed to be that type of team for the Big Ten to break through and win its first national title in 26 years.
I got Josh Graham, boots on the ground out in Indianapolis on the scene of the national championship game. Michigan 69-63 winners over UConn. We mentioned, Michigan's ability to adapt in this basketball game and to play that rugged style that we know UConn lives and dies by. I used the analogy earlier, Josh. All year long for Michigan, it's been pretty boy swag. Tonight it was hard knock life. What does it say about Dusty May and that group that they were able to adjust here? Because when I see them go 0 for 8 in the first half from 3, they're only up 4 going into the locker room. I thought, man, if you're UConn, you got to be thrilled with how this first half went.
Yeah, it again became a rough and tumble game. UConn knew that that was its shot. And, man, watching Dan Hurley work from up close, I know you saw it when you were in D.C.
I'm telling you.
It's the way he works the officials for every inch, the way
he was on his best behavior tonight, though, Josh. I'll give him that. It felt like it at least, or they was letting him go a little bit because you don't want to tee a guy up in a big game.
There were
like
at least 2 instances where Dan Hurley tried to challenge something or get an appeal that James Breeding, the head official, responded by saying, "You can't challenge that, Dan. You can't challenge that, Dan." And Dan losing it, like going down to his knees with his hands on his head. And last year, I was at UConn's loss to Florida, who eventually won the national championship in Raleigh. That was the round of 32. And I remember Dan Hurley saying, there is honor in losing to a basketball team like that. He had similar remarks tonight saying, man, I'm not emotional right now. The guys, they're crying, I'm not emotional because I'm proud that they played the way they did. Alex Caravan, his career going the distance, played 40 minutes tonight in his last college basketball game.
And played well too, Josh.
He was fighting tears saying, that's all I ever wanted. I wanted to be out here for 40 minutes. I wanted to give my team a chance. And he hit an important 3 to give them a chance towards the end of the game. I just love the storylines that we had tonight, and I'm happy for Elliot Cadeau. I want to know what Raymond Felton. I want to know what Raymond Felton has to say tonight.
Yeah, I know,
frankly.
right? Woof.
Hey, Raymond Felton, you think that guy's a point guard? Last year, you said that your Tar Heels needed a point guard, and that point guard turned out to be pretty good. Raymond Felton and the podcast bros sitting there laughing along. That guy turned out to be pretty good. And he took a lot of, almost curse, took a lot of bleep from people that he didn't deserve. And tonight, I feel good for that kid because he was the best player on the floor tonight, and they needed him because Yaxel Lindenborg wasn't 100% and gave what he could, and they couldn't hit an outside shot. So I feel great for Elliot Cadeau, who took a ton of crap, and some of it was from nonsense coming from former players in Chapel Hill. He goes to Michigan, and he gets it done.
We're going to get your thoughts on the news that came out of Chapel Hill earlier this afternoon, a little bit later on. But we've given a lot of love to Michigan. I've been saying it all show, Josh. I peeled the curtain all the way back. I had 2 shows prepared going into tonight. The show if Michigan won, and then the show if UConn won. If UConn would have won, I would have been – blasphemy may have been coming out of my mouth. I'm willing to call him maybe the greatest college basketball coach of all time on the men's side. And then if you win 3 titles in 4 years, Josh, do we talk about you maybe in terms of the greatest coaches ever, no matter what the sport is? But they lost tonight,
Well,
Josh.
hold one sec.
They lost tonight.
Hold one sec. Can we say, Lynnell, though, that this still is one of the greater 4-year runs? Because Duke,
100%.
Duke won 2 in 4 years, went to the Final Four in 4 straight seasons. Christian Laettner, all 4 of his seasons. That's probably the best you're going to find since UCLA with 4 Final Fours. But you win 2 national championships in a 4-year stretch. You have a runner-up finish, and in both the instances you don't win a title, the team you lose to wins the national championship.
And this team in particular, compared to the 2 that won back-to-back, I mean, they pale in comparison from a talent perspective. I kept saying this is Dan Hurley's best coaching job, in my opinion, because I don't think this team is as good as the 23 team or as good as the 24 team. You mentioned storylines in tonight's game. I thought the play off the bench that you got once Demery and Solo Ball got in foul trouble, Malachi Smith and Jaden Ross coming in the game and providing 4 extra possessions by way of grabbing 4 offensive rebounds between the 2 of them. Like, that speaks to what that program is all about. There's no drop-off when those other guys come in. They were prepared for the moment. I was saying it earlier. It's not really about the name on the back of the jersey for UConn. There's a brand and a style of basketball that Dan Hurley gets them to play. How proud do you think he was of those two kids coming off the bench tonight and playing big minutes, keeping them in it in a scenario which, if I would have told you pregame that Solo Ball and Demery were going to get 2 early fouls, you would have said, write UConn off immediately.
No, I'll even go a step further than that, Lynnell. So you get the 2 early fouls on both those guys, and then Terrace Reed picks up 2 before halftime. And then the second half begins, and at the under 16 timeout, 4 fouls were called in the first 4+. 2 on Solo Ball, 1 on Terrace Reed, and 1 on Silas Demery. And if you're Dan Hurley, you got to be thinking, what the bleep, man? This is not the situation you want to be in. But still, they were right there. And you're right. He should be super proud of those guys in the minutes that they put forth. But there's a sequence that really stands out in this game. It's a 6-point game. There's 2 minutes to go, roughly. And UConn forces the turnover. Leave it again to the Huskies to have a successful press break or a successful press in order to steal the basketball. And it was Terrace Reed chasing after it to the baseline, saves it to Solo Ball, and he's unable to finish the layup. On the other end, ball's loose under the basket, and Reed can't quite get his hands on it, or it was Caravan, can't quite pick it up at his feet. It kicks out. And you have the 3 by McKinney
punch, man.
that makes what would have been, with $1:50 to go, a 4-point game turn into a 9-point margin. And even though they still found a way to make it close and covered the 6.5, I'll add.
I'm about to say, we were gambling again.
And the under 69.5 points will throw out there
you were
as
double
well for UConn. Just saying. Just throwing that out there.
For sure.
That was a key sequence in the game.
For sure, man. I think the resilience that both of these two teams showed throughout the course of the game was awesome. You feel for UConn, and you understand the elation that Michigan has, man. Hoisting that trophy for the first time since '89. You were in the locker room. Yeah. What were the emotions like in that losing locker room and in that winning locker room?
I need Armin Williams, who's standing near side, to send a clip. Hopefully we can pull – I don't know if we can do video, if it's just audio or not, but I had a chance to catch up with Damari Burnett, and he was sitting there talking about, one shining moment and cutting down the nets, and he had a snickerdoodle cookie in his hand. And I asked, how much sweeter is that cookie now that you're a national champion? He's like, man – it's the best cookie I ever had in my life. He's like, you mind if I grab one? He's like, dude, get them before they're gone, brother. I couldn't find them.
You always dream of cutting down the net, of standing on that stage, listening to One Shining Moment and seeing the confetti fall. What part did it feel real, or has it?
It felt real because I felt like we deserved it and we put in so much time, but what didn't feel real was just the emotion. Just like so many tears of just letting it all out, because knowing how hard I worked for this moment, knowing how hard these guys worked for this moment, and knowing that we were dedicated to doing it from game 1 to game 40, from the preseason when we played Cincinnati and St. John's, that we were dedicated to winning national championship.
How much sweeter does that cookie taste as a national champion?
This cookie is amazing. I'm going to eat some more later and just celebrate with my team and eat some more.
I might have to grab one.
You might. I think you should before it runs out of luck.
When in this season, or when in all, did you think of it?
He eats right at the end there.
Michigan was the 1 seed going into the game. Snickerdoodle, the 1 seed in the cookie NCAA tournament. As far as I'm concerned, I got Josh Graham boots on the ground out there in Indianapolis as we continue to give you wall-to-wall coverage of the men's national championship game. The Michigan Wolverines, 69-63 winners over UConn. I got Josh was in both the Michigan locker room and the UConn locker room. If you're watching on YouTube, Rob Doster trying to video bomb us there from the field of 68. If you're going to video bomb us, Rob, you might as well hop on.
Should I grab another one of those guys for the next bit? Should I do it?
You try to grab Rob Doster. We're going to pay some bills coming up here as we continue to give you wall-to-wall coverage of the men's national championship game. I got to ask you about what happened today in your neck of the woods. A new head man leading the North Carolina men's basketball program. We'll tell you who next.
Michigan wins its first title since 1989. The Wolverines are on top of the college basketball world. A moment 37 years in the making. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds.
What's up, baby?
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
What about now?
Yeah, I can hear you, Denton. Can I hear
All right,
Lynnell?
cool. So you said don't
At the
start
tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds.
I think the same thing we just did, we do with Rob Doster. We let him go. Like 5-6 minutes, and then we talk about the Carolina search. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
No, I'm saying like they're about to take a team photo. You can come over. Come on, great. Is that cool with you, Lynnell?
I can hear you, but I can't hear you. Are we asking? Are we doing?
Can you kill? Hey, Oliver, can you kill the countdown?
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes.
Yeah, I still hear the countdown.
Are we talking about the game or the UNC search?
Let's talk about the game, and then when he leaves, we go. We talk about the Carolina search.
Yep.
Is that cool?
Yes.
Okay, and then I'll peace out after this segment. That cool?
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds.
If Doster doesn't get here in time, we'll just start with Carolina, and he'll sit down. Did you catch that one now?
You better tell
Yeah, I got that. But I got it.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute.
Can you see the levels on this armor? I got it probably for a while. You see the 15? On the screen? Just 15. Right. Can you turn it to about...
Gotta do a better job of that.
Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to keep the 2-shot. And then say Rob was telling us this.
No Rob right now.
Westwood One Sports Night. Here's Lynnell Willingham.
Our wall-to-wall coverage of the men's national championship game continues here on Westwood One Sports Night with the youngest in charge, Lynnell Willingham. I got Josh Graham, the Kang of North Kakalaki, boots on the ground at Lucas Oil Stadium, where the Michigan Wolverines hoisted the national championship trophy for the first time since 1989. Dusty May and company completing one of the best two-year turnarounds we've seen in recent memory in the world of college basketball. 8-24 overall, 3-17 in Big Ten play just 2 seasons ago. Now they are kings of the college basketball world. Bunch of different ways you can check out the program. If you're watching the YouTube stream, we appreciate you doing that. You can hit us up in the chat. If you're looking to check us out on the YouTube stream, you can do so nightly. Just search Westwood One Sports Night. Josh, a lot going on, man. First and foremost, have you been able to breathe a little bit since the final buzzer? I know you ran into the Michigan locker room. You had to run into the UConn locker room. Can we get you to be a human for here just a hot second? How do you feel about being boots on the ground at the national championship game, but then getting to bear witness to one of the better games in recent memory here in the Natty?
It was special. I grew up on Tobacco Road. I love college basketball more than any sport. I do. I love this tournament more than any postseason. Because of logistics, always, if I ever made it to the Final Four, I wasn't able to stick around for Monday night. So tonight was the first Monday night that I was here for, and to have a great seat right behind the TV crew and watch a champion be crowned and it be a good game, it's special. This is a historic one because now the Big Ten Conference, Lynnell, national champions in football, men's basketball, women's basketball. There is no doubt that the Big Ten Conference is supreme, has reigned supreme across college sports. 3 straight in football, and then women's basketball, men's basketball. Don't remember the last time we've seen a league have a run of dominance like we're seeing the Big Ten enjoy, and to see it firsthand, it was special.
I have given my fair share of apologies to the Big Ten Basketball Conference throughout the course of the show here tonight. You mentioned it. Their dominance reigning supreme here tonight as they're able to cut down the nets. I know we're getting ready to be joined by our pal Rob Doster, field of 68.
Was it him just walking there that gave it away?
Yeah, I was about to say, that probably did give it away from me. He looks good.
We got to let the guy sleep, too. So he just got done doing a show.
I was about to say.
Nice enough to join us. You know, I'm going to be the PR person in this context. I'm going to say, you know what, we're going to keep this thing to a hard 5. A hard 5 with Rob Doster joining us. Now we got the levels here. We're making it happen. Welcome.
I really wanted to make a joke about hard 5.
You know, rather than talk about a hard 5, let's talk about the Fab 5. As you look at this team winning a national championship tonight, are you in agreement this is the best Michigan team we've ever seen?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think this is one of the best college basketball teams that we've seen in maybe ever. I feel good enough about saying that, for mostly because you have a lot of guys that have been here for a long time, a lot of guys that are fifth-year players. But, man, just the dominance, the way that they could roll over teams, the way they just steamrolled people, it's really, really impressive. Like, I thought UConn played just about a perfect game tonight, and they lost. And it was 6, but it never really felt like this was going to be anything other than the inevitable coronation of the Michigan Wolverines as national champions.
Rob, what did you make of Michigan's ability to kind of play that bar fight brand of basketball that UConn prides itself on, man? I used the analogy earlier. All year for Michigan, it's been like pretty boy swag. Tonight it was hard knock life. They put a little elbow grease on it en route to victory. Were you impressed with their toughness here tonight? And that's probably what stood out the most to me.
Lynnell, is that you?
That is our
Hey, what's up, man? How
what
we
up,
doing?
pal? I know we kind of just brushed me in here. I'm good, man. I saw your big frame walking by, so I realized you were about to hop on with us.
Take one guess what team he roots for.
You look like an Eagles guy.
Yeah, big Eagles fan over here.
What'd you ask again?
Hard knock style of basketball where
what'd you think about
UConn was able to
Michigan?
play its brand.
I mean, look, what you needed to do to be able to beat this Michigan team was to get them into a half-court game, right? Don't have the live ball turnovers, win the battle on the glass, and make enough threes. UConn got it to a half-court game. I think I counted 3 live ball turnovers the entire game. Only one of them led to a layup at the other end of the floor. 22 offensive rebounds. Like, they won the battle on the glass. They shot 9 for 33 from 3. If they go 12 for 33 from 3, like they did on Saturday night, they win this basketball game. But they didn't make enough shots. And there were little moments, too, like the steal that Reed had where he tipped it out in front of himself and tried to chase it down and wasn't able to. He just tipped it a little bit too far, and when he tried to save it back to solo ball, he missed the layup. Immediately down to the other end, Trey McKinney hit the 3. And when he shot that, I said, Kevin Sweeney of Sports Illustrated was sitting right next to me. When he shot that, I said, game over.
That's exactly the sequence I just pointed to with Lynnell, saying that would have been a 4-point game. It turns to a 9-point game with a $150, and that's what killed the game for UConn.
There was a couple more. There was one possession. UConn had been down 11. They got it back to 7, and Braylon Mullins missed 2 open threes right here on the same possession.
Left corner.
In the left corner. There was another one about 4 minutes later. I think there were 6 minutes left in the game. I want to say it was 43-37, and Braylon Mullins had an open 3 on the right wing, and he missed it. They came down the other end. Yaxel's posting up. Jalen Stewart misses, tips in his own miss. There's another one. You come down on this end, and UConn misses a shot. You come back down, and Elliot Cadeau hits their first 3 of the game to push it to 11, and it was like, that's –
committing to the hard 5. Let's close out with this because we promised it coming into the segment. The North Carolina search concludes, and this dawned on me today, Rob. The last time the national championship game was played in Indianapolis, it was Baylor beating Gonzaga, and the news earlier that day was North Carolina hired Hubert Davis, and 5 years later, they have a new coach, and it's a guy from the NBA ranks. What is your initial snap judgment of Michael Malone, how has it changed over the last 6 hours, 7 hours thinking about it?
I've actually liked it since the start. I understand the process. I think that he is a guy that we know can coach basketball, right? And if you look at, he had a 6-year run where he was first or second in the Northwest Division every year in the NBA. And yes, I know he had Nikola Jokic, the Joker's a cheat code. But the guy that everyone wanted from the NBA, Billy Donovan, when he won national titles, you know what he had now? He had 3 lottery picks, and they all came back to school again, and they won a second time. I think the key is going to be the staff that you put around him, right, first and foremost. And you got to be able to have people that can identify talent and bring in the people that will fit together. I think it's impossible to talk about North Carolina opening and Hubert Davis without also talking about the fact that his starting point guard from last year was just the Final Four MLP.
Where's Raymond Felton at?
No, I'm like
that's what I want to know.
Think about it. Like the whole point of coaching is to be able to get the best out of the team that you have and be able to put guys that are talented in situations where they can succeed. And that is exactly what Dusty May did, and that is not what Hubert Davis did. And I think Michael Malone is a good enough coach where you can give him some pieces. He's going to get the best out of them, and once he kind of figures the college game out, he'll know what pieces he needs for the next season. So I'm in on it, man.
Get some sleep. Rob Doster, thanks for doing this.
I appreciate you, brother.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to get some sleep, but I will tell you this. There is an old-fashioned calling my name right now.
Yeah.
Right now.
Get it in. Get it in, my man.
Oh, hold on. He has one more message for you, Lynnell.
I got one more message for you. EAGLES.
Eagle. It's enough for Rob Dawson. Get him the hell out of here. We
Thank you, Rob.
appreciate him making some time for us. Josh, man, I was thinking about you all day, brother, because one, you're out there boots on the ground. I know you're living out your childhood dream that I get the chance to cover this game. And then smack dab in the middle of the day, wham, the big-time news out of Chapel Hill that totally rocks the sports world. I was saying this all show, Josh. Throughout this tournament, since Hubert got fired, it's felt like it hasn't been about the tournament. It feels like the tournament's kind of been the backdrop here. The lead story, it's always felt like, has been this coaching search at the University of North Carolina. They land on Michael Malone. You told me in a text you got like 30 text messages at one time when the news broke. What was your first blush reaction as you're trying to, rationalize what just happened?
I told you what my initial thought was just in the moment. I don't know because it's so shocking, but I think I kind of like it just because of what the alternative could have been, Lynnell. If they didn't land Billy Donovan, they were going to hire Vanderbilt's basketball coach maybe. Being directed, let me switch a headset. Let me switch onto this headset very quickly, if that's okay.
Josh
give
Graham
me your snap.
joining us.
Give me your snap reaction first, and I'll tell you why I feel differently because I know where you stand on it.
Well, I've been flapping my gums the past 2 hours on it as Josh Graham joins us live out from Lucas Oil Stadium, the site of the men's national championship game. The Michigan Wolverines 69-63 winners. We just had Rob Doster from the Field of 68 join the program. You never know who's going to stop by. Josh, just your initial reaction to what happened earlier today at the University of North Carolina. I was not moved by the hire. I thought it was rock solid. And the phrase I used earlier, look, you're the University of North Carolina, damn it. You better have at least a rock-solid hire because of the brand that you are. I think Mike Malone checks that box. My biggest question is how aggressive is the basketball program going to be in terms of providing him the necessary resources, maneuvering within the transfer portal, going out and trying to land top freshman classes? Like, how aggressive are they going to be in team building moving forward here? That's my big question.
I think they should have maybe the biggest budget of anybody in the country because when you were talking about the other options available, you don't get Dusty May. You have to wait for Billy Donovan. Even Billy Donovan, based on reporting I actually did, $6.5 million buyout. Where Dusty May, it would have been $10+ million. Tommy Lloyd, $10+ million. $0
it's the key
buyout for Coach Malone. See, that's a much better alternative than defaulting to the Vanderbilt coach, Mark Byington. You don't go from Hubert Davis and a 65+ year lineage that goes back to Dean Smith, parting ways from that, with all due respect, to hire the Vanderbilt coach who's never been to the second weekend of the tournament and paying a $10 million buyout to do so. This is better than that. It's even better than the Ben McCollum scenario as well, even though reportedly he turned them down. Because here's the thing with Ben McCollum. Yeah, the guy won D2 titles. It's a small sample size at Iowa. They went to the Elite Eight. That's a great story.
For sure.
If only North Carolina had someone available to them who made it maybe even further than the Elite Eight in his first year as a coach. Maybe even got to the title game and beat Duke multiple times and has ties to North Carolina. Wait, they had that. They had that guy in Hubert Davis. So you don't do the normal stuff if you're going to deviate from it. Take a swing. Take a damn swing. And nobody in the country has the resume Michael Malone does. Nobody has an NBA championship as the head coach. So I respect doing something different rather than doing the predictable thing and ending up in a very underwhelming place. I like the swing.
Real quick, because I know we got to let you go. What do you say to the Tar Heel fans out there that go, did we get stood up at the altar? We didn't hear Mike Malone's name throughout the entirety of this process, and then 12 hours before the portal opens, we just magically end up with a guy. What do you say to the Carolina fans that are upset that they didn't get their first, second, third, or maybe even fourth choice throughout this process?
I don't think they got one of their – well, they hadn't get their top three options because Brad Stevens said no, Dusty May, Tommy Lloyd. It just depends on your interpretation of Billy Donovan. And then they decided once they lost Tommy Lloyd for sure to go to their second list, and it was Ben McCollum and Michael Malone. Yeah, you can be disappointed about that all you want, but in the end, this is a basketball game that they play out there. And if that guy knows ball, to use a kid expression, what the kids say, and ultimately you should feel pretty good about that you did something a little bit different. And one thing I brought up as a snap reaction as well to this, Lynnell, it is strange how many ties there are between the Denver Nuggets organization now
when
and
you
the
start
North
digging,
Carolina Tar Heels. Like, if you want to go like a quick history lesson, pull up a chair, some history here. Doug Moe was the coach of the Nuggets from 1980 to 1990, legendary coach for Denver. He was part of Frank McGuire's final four teams in Chapel Hill that were assisted by Dean Smith. So he was there under Frank McGuire, who, by the way, He's from New York, coming in, just like you got here, a New Yorker, and Michael Malone taking over. George Karl is a North Carolina alum as well. And now you've got right here, you've got the former NBA championship head coach of the Denver Nuggets taking over as well. So there is some symmetry there that I find interesting.
Josh, some would say we have amazing symmetry, synergy, chemistry. Unfortunately, we got to cut it short, my brother. I know you got some cold ones to knock down. You and our program director, Armin Williams. You make sure you take care of the boss man out there.
Oh, man.
By the way, we
Karaoke?
have you on. Will you do karaoke for us? Since you were just giving your talents away to the folks out there in Indy, can we get some karaoke on the way out?
Can't do it. Can't do it around here.
Can't do it. Can't win with it.
I have to have some remaining pipes for Drake Toll at 8:20 this morning, later this morning, catching that and catching up with Bleck and Abdallah as well. So that's what we call being a team player. And I'm gonna say a line on the way out, Lynnell, that I've told Armin Williams and all the Westwood One Sports team about 24 times, maybe more, since I've arrived here on Thursday morning. We sleep in May, Lynnell. We sleep in May.
We sleep in May. Transfer portal open. College basketball, the sport that never sleeps. Our guy Josh Graham not sleeping either. You can check him out coming up on the Drake Toll Show, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on Westwood One Sports. We'll be joining Bleck and Abdallah as well, noon to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Westwood One Sports. We briefly got into it with the Kanganoof Kakalaki, but let's take the top off all the way for real here. There is a new head coach in Chapel Hill. I'll give you the details and my thoughts on Mike Malone to the Tar Heels next.
North Carolina has hired former Nuggets coach Michael Malone. For the first time in 70 years, the Tar Heels go outside the Carolina family to reset one of college basketball's most powerful brands. Will it prove to be the right move? Westwood One Sports.
All right, thanks, Lynnell. Thanks, D-Day. Appreciate you
Yeah,
guys.
man, great stuff. Appreciate you hanging with us for like 40 minutes.
We'll see how this morning goes.
Yeah, go drink some OJ.
I'll do it. See ya.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Sports Night. Here's Lynnell Willingham.
Still rocking out with you here on a Monday night edition of Westwood One Sports Night. You're tapped in to the youngest in charge, Lynnell Willingham, taking you coast to coast, kicking it to you on the biggest news in the world of sports. Big shout out to our guy Josh Graham, who's been out there working his ass off, boots on the ground in Indianapolis, providing us wall-to-wall coverage of the Final Four. He was out there courtside for the national championship game as well. Michigan, the last man standing in the world of college basketball. 69-63 winners over the UConn Huskies. Dusty May and company completing one of the most unique two-year turnarounds in recent memory in the world of college basketball just 2 seasons ago. Wolverines 8-24 and a nasty, yucky, disgusting 3-17 in Big Ten play. And now the Big Ten Conference as a whole at the top of the college world as Michigan completing the trifecta that hasn't completing the trifecta that hasn't happened before in Division I history. 3 different schools winning the national championship in football with Indiana and my Uncle Kurt Signetti, in basketball with Dusty May and the Wolverines. And then yesterday we saw Lauren Betts in the UCLA women's team totally spank Don Staley in the South Carolina Gamecocks, man. So the Big Ten on top. I want to take your calls, man, on your reaction to the national championship game. Michigan completing a special season in special fashion. And if you want to show some love to UConn as well, I'm down to do that. Dan Hurley with one of his best coaching jobs in his career, in my opinion, getting this team all the way to the national championship game and then making a game of it, man. 7.5 point spread going into this one. Not a lot of people gave UConn a fighter's chance, yet they scratched and fought and clawed for the entirety of this one, man, taking after the characteristics of their head man, Dan Hurley. I want to get your calls in. It is the People Show. 310-840-4910 is how you hit us up on the talk and text line. I got Justin in Detroit batting leadoff for us. Are we partying tonight out in the D?
We got to wait a little bit. I got a liquor store here to close. You know what I want to do, though?
What's
Next
up, man?
year,
Mm-hmm.
come to Ford Field. I'm going to take you to the finest Italian restaurant. We're going to get steaks, liquor, anything that you want.
Let's do it, man. I'm about to say, look, don't talk about it, be about it. Get his information, and we're going to hold him to it. This is how we become family here on Westwood One Sports Night. We break bread.
Well, we family with everybody down here.
We family. What did you think, though, man? You're a Wolverine fan. What was the moment like for you getting to watch this thing go down in real time?
It was a lot better than that cheap national championship that Harbaugh won, and I'm a Michigan fan.
No.
That Harbaugh won in 23 with the football program.
Mm-hmm.
And 1989, I was barely a year old.
Wow.
And this one's going to be even bittersweet. And I was saying to my coworker today, I said, you know who would have been proud of this team? Bob Knight.
Bobby. We love Coach Knight. You know, it's ironic. Indiana Hoosiers got honored at halftime, actually. I think Bob Knight's either son or nephew was the one that was giving out the commemorative rings to the guys. So Bobby Knight damn sure would have been proud of what the Wolverines were able to accomplish here tonight. Top of the mountain in the world of men's college basketball. Taking your calls on it on our talking text line, 310-840-4910. You can hit us up in the YouTube chat as well. You can stream the show nightly on YouTube and on X on YouTube. Just search Westwood One Sports Night. Jim is in New Hampshire. Jimbo, what up, baby? What you got for us, man?
What's going on, my friend? I love talking to you, Liddell. I mean, you're awesome.
Appreciate you, man.
Nah, just tonight. I mean, do you think I would have thought that Michigan would have blown them out?
I said the same thing over the weekend if you were listening, man. I didn't think this was going to be particularly close. I just didn't think that UConn had the horses, man. But I got to give a shout-out. I want to celebrate Michigan because they won, but I do want to give some love to Coach Hurley too, man. He coached his ass off.
Can I say one thing, though, man?
For sure.
Right? I got the spread today at 7 because my buddy goes to the New York Post.
Mm-hmm.
And I had $10,000 riding on this.
Wow!
And it won by 6.
Hold the hell on. That big baller alert. Whew.
That's last.
Wait, hold on. You had 7 on it? The number that you just threw out totally took me off
Had
kilter.
7. It was 7.5 yesterday. Then it went to 7, and they ended up winning by 6.
You bet Michigan?
Yeah, I had Michigan.
Oh my goodness! I'll be honest with you.
I started out with Howard.
Look.
I took over.
You shouldn't be up late talking to me. You need to hop yourself in the vehicle, download the DoorDash delivery app, download the Uber Eats delivery app. You got some money to earn back, my friend. I appreciate the call. 310-840-4910 is the number. $10,000 for it to go down like that?
That number breaks our brain.
I'm about to say
$5 on the
I put $5.75 down. Clearly, we are living 2 different lifestyles. Jim in New Hampshire. Is it safe to say he's riding around and getting it? Wow. Michigan Wolverines, winners. Jim in New Hampshire, a loser. Wolverines, 6-point winners over the Huskies. It capped off a crazy day in the world of college basketball. We'll recap it all for you coming up next here on Westwood One Sports Night with the youngest in charge, Lynnell Willingham.
This is Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
Westwood One Sports Night. Here's Lynnell Willingham.
Final hour of power. They're on a championship Monday night edition of Westwood One Sports Night. Youngest in charge, Lynnell Willingham, taking you coast to coast as we bring you the biggest news in the world of sports. What a show it has been. We've been all around the world in 80 days. See, you guys always make fun of me about movies. How many of you all have seen Around the World in 80 days? How about that? Disney kid over here, pal. Talking text line wide open for you. You can react to a bunch of different things because it was a crazy, crazy day in the world of sports. It starts off with Mike Malone, former championship head coach of the Denver Nuggets, being named the next head coach at the University of North Carolina, getting a big, big backing from Michael Jordan and Roy Williams. A lot of people touting his basketball X and O's expertise as to why he was a big-time candidate for the job. I can't help but look at it through this lens, though. When it comes to this hire that was made of Mike Malone, it's like me. It's like me when I was in college at times, man. When you go to a small school like Bethany College out in Bethany, West Virginia, and you have a graduating class of under 200, it is hard to get your pick of the litter, so to speak, if you're not 6'5", 260 pounds, and have spray tan abs. So I was left at the altar several different times throughout my collegiate career trying to be a bachelor out in college. This is what happened to the University of North Carolina. They didn't get their first choice, their second choice, the third choice, their fourth choice, their fifth choice. We don't know where Michael Malone was on this list. So the fact that he gets hired 12 hours before the portal opens makes me go, was he the guy that they really wanted for this job? I continue to say no. Despite that, though, despite him not being their primary choice, he is a rock-solid hire. Anytime you can usher in a new era of Carolina basketball with someone that has championship pedigree, albeit at the NBA level, I think it's a small win for your program. I will go no further than rock-solid hire, though. I won't say it's good. I won't say it's great, like some people out there are saying. Because, look, at the end of the day, you hired a guy that's never done it before. You hired a guy whose biggest tie to the program is that he went to 4 or 5 volleyball practices for his daughter last year. Are we kidding? I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to wait and see on this. The biggest question, in my opinion, facing this UNC basketball program, now that Mike Malone has took over, will they be able to put a good enough roster together? Will they be aggressive in terms of providing him the necessary resources to build this program up the right way? Because I know what people are going to say, right? I got on them pretty hard a couple of weeks ago about their lack of success in recruiting freshmen, the lack of top 10 recruiting classes that they've had over the course of the past decade plus. You can actually say the same thing about their lack of success in the transfer portal, which when I was looking these numbers up earlier and doing this research, I was taken aback a little bit because I was under the belief that, well, if they're not landing top 10 recruiting classes on a year-in, year-out basis, well, most certainly they're one of the big heavy hitters in terms of the transfer portal. Word to Stone Cold Steve Austin. Seriously, it's crazy to me. North Carolina last year, the year of our Lord 2025, came in with a recruiting class in the transfer portal that was ranked 22nd, ladies and gentlemen. They had the 22nd best transfer portal class also last year in terms of their recruiting class, right? And the big freshman that they were able to land, and Caleb Wilson, he obviously helps that. They had the 7th-ranked recruiting class. So the last 2 years, 25 and 24, I really said, I can't really say much about that. You had the 7th-ranked recruiting class in 25, the 8th-ranked recruiting class in 2024. But in 2023, when you had the 32nd-ranked recruiting class, in a year like that, if you're going to have the 22nd-ranked recruiting class, or 32nd-ranked recruiting class, rather, I expect you to get busy in the transfer portal. And guess what? In the year 2023, North Carolina failed to do that. They didn't get busy in the transfer portal. They had the 20th ranked transfer portal class. So where's the money being spent at is my question. Hubert Davis was fired for not meeting the standard. You lost back-to-back in opening rounds. Can't happen, right? You're North Carolina. But on the same token, is this front office, because that's how we got to talk about these programs now, is this front office truly committed to excellence? Is this front office truly committed to winning? That's going to be the telltale sign of whether or not they get things back on track, whether or not they get back on the island of relevancy when it comes to college basketball. This is the University of North Carolina, damn it. The King of North Kakalaki, Josh Graham, said it, and he wasn't flexing and flogging when he said it either. They should have the biggest budget in all of college basketball, damn it. So we're going to see coming up here in the portal, which opened up a couple hours ago. They've already lost a couple of guys to the portal, a couple of freshmen that Hubert Davis had buried on the bench. They said, so long, we're taking our talents elsewhere. We're taking our talents to greener pastures. It's tough, man. What you going to do, University of North Carolina? Mike Malone's there. You've got your man. Will you provide him with the necessary resources to be the best version of the University of North Carolina? 310-840-4910 is how you hit us up on the talk and text line. Lamar is in Michigan wanting to check in. Lamar, good morning to you, brother. Welcome in to Westwood One Sports Night.
Good morning to you, bud.
Good morning, man. Good morning.
Yeah, man. I've been hearing a lot of backlash on the Big Ten, man. So, I had to call in on that. I'm the leader.
I'm the leader of the hater club. I'm the leader of the hater club when it comes to the Big Ten. So let me hear.
I had to hear all see. Hey, who I trust the least? I trust the Big Ten the least. This is what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, the drought is over, man. So UNC, don't even worry about UNC because Michigan on top, the Big Ten on top. You know, who started the ripple effect when Big Ten won the national championship in football?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Big Ten been taking over, man. So you got to give them their flowers, man. Give them the credit. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I had to call in for because I had to hear it throughout the whole season.
Lamar, that's real,
They've
brother.
been dominating.
That's real. Because look, the year is over, right? I'm back to hating the Big Ten. Michigan had their moment. Michigan had their moment for about an hour and a half, brother. I'm right back to hating on the Big Ten. In reality, though, man, moving forward, y'all got one, man. Dusty May's got to be looked at as one of them ones as well, man, just for the coaching job he did this year. Getting all those different transfer talents to buy in and be on a string, not have no ego, not try to one-up the next man. That's what you call brotherhood, man. That's a culture.
Yeah, and then the transfers he gonna get and the people that he recruited so far, I'd love to see what he do next season too, because you know some of them people gonna be gone.
If I'm not mistaken, on Saturday night during the Altcast, when the Fab Five was doing the Altcast, didn't they land a top 10 recruit in the class of 2026 at the guard spot?
Yeah, a 5-star, yeah. Yep.
Michigan.
But no, I had to call in on that, man.
Nah, for sure.
Enjoy the show, man. Enjoy the show.
Lamar, appreciate you as always, brother, man. We appreciate you checking in here on Westwood One Sports Night. Look, if you're a Michigan fan, let me hear it, baby. Y'all know how I get down. I can dish it. I can take it as well. Y'all still ain't, look, I almost cussed. Y'all still ain't worth a damn. Talk about the Big Ten. I still don't trust you.
Do you think, so I love celebrations, right? Like I'm a happy guy. I like watching, people celebrate. That's just me.
Celebrate.
I do feel like Ann Arbor, though, because it feels like it's a big enough city to where they could put on like a real, not dangerous necessarily, though I did see fireworks happening in an area where I wouldn't generally see, like it was by apartment buildings. I was like, that you shouldn't do.
As a tenant that likes to wag his finger at unnecessary noises, I would not be in favor.
You would hate your life right now if you were living in Ann Arbor. I mean, they're picking up stop signs. They're lighting. First of all, where do you even get fireworks? It's April. Who is selling fireworks in April?
Maybe a pre-4th of July sale. Who knows? I'm reaching, but
I mean, unless
are they legal? Are they legal in Michigan? Because they ain't legal everywhere now.
They are not legal everywhere. Who cares? It feels. First of all, I don't even know. Can you get in trouble for illegal fireworks?
Hell yeah. I think it's probably like a misdemeanor or something.
Yeah, they ain't stopping them there. They're just like crowding the street,
picking up anytime. I'm gonna just call it what it is. Anytime you're drunk enough to dig a stop sign out of the crowd, you feeling good. And you got a reason to celebrate.
And by the way, like from the looks of it, they took it out of concrete. Like they're not in a park. They're on like whatever their main strip is. So they ripped that bad boy up. No. Are you in the position in life now where you would party with a championship? Or have those days gone past? I wrestle with this constantly.
Are you talking about if
that particular team that Rob Doster confused for Kelly Green, if they win a championship, I mean, are you out on U Street? Like, what's going on?
I might be in a damn toga. I might be in a toga. I might have on face paint. I'm either going to be in a toga so I can get naked quickly, or I'm going to be in a full-form uniform so I look like one of the players. I mean, I'm telling you. I'm telling you, man. Hell yeah, I would party that. Are you kidding? If they won?
Yeah, I would too.
If any team – the thing that sucked, both of the titles that we had locally in D.C., Nats and the Caps, I was in college for both of them. Didn't come home. We had to watch it on social media. And all I could think of was, I'd be out there right now, wouldn't I?
I need to find more videos of them partying. If you have videos of Michigan people partying, please send them to us because I think these are hilarious, especially because we don't have to clean it up.
Yeah, shout out to the city of Detroit, man. Getting it done. Michigan Wolverines, national champions, atop the college basketball world, 69-63 winners over the UConn Huskies. We've been providing you wall-to-wall coverage here, the Final Four, all weekend long. Our guy Josh Graham out there, boots on the ground. Westwood One, also the play-by-play home for men's college basketball. We had our guys on the call. This game, back and forth affair, but ultimately in the second half, Michigan found their stroke from the great beyond. UConn couldn't hit the wide side of a barn. The final call of the Michigan Wolverines winning the national championship for the first time since '89 went this way.
UConn will inbound. It's Smith. They have no timeouts remaining. Smith will bring it up the floor quickly. Smith on the drive to the rim. Missed the layup. Rebound loose. Scooped up by Gale. He'll throw it to the other end of the floor. Caravan tracks it down with 2 seconds. With one, he throws it to half court. And since 1989, there's been a blank space in the Michigan trophy case. Will write their name. Michigan, the 2026 men's basketball national champions. They knock off UConn 69-63 to win the school's second men's basketball championship.
The biggest Kevin Kugler on the call for Westwood One Sports, making the moment sound even bigger than what it was, man.
Am I missing something? I don't know that you're catching the reference because you don't strike me as a Taylor Swift fan. Is there a reason for the Taylor Swift reference? Are you catching the Taylor Swift reference?
No. What's the – oh, Lord. What's the T Swift reference that – you talking about that Kevin Kugler made on the call?
Yeah, like the blank space and I'll write your name. Like that's a reference to the Taylor Swift
song. Oh, Blank Space
song.
by Taylor Swift?
Is there like a connection or does he just like Taylor Swift? Like we've heard this call now probably 4 times on the show. It's a great call. Like I love Kevin Kugler. But I've been puzzled the entire time as to why he made a Taylor Swift reference there.
Is he a Swiftie?
Because she doesn't have ties to Michigan, I don't think.
We're finding out that woman has ties everywhere where they print money. So wouldn't surprise me if she did have some ties ultimately to the University of Michigan, man. We have ties to a good time, man. Only here on Westwood One Sports do you get exclusive access that we've been able to provide you by way of the Final Four. I got Josh Graham out there, boots on the ground. Make sure if you're not already subscribed to our YouTube that you do so, man. We appreciate you all listening on our over 200-plus affiliates out there nationwide via radio. We appreciate you tapping in with us on Sirius XM Channel 375. We encourage you. We give you a little friendly nudge to check us out on YouTube as well. The show is streamed live each and every night on YouTube and on X. On X, it is at NELL_BTP. You can find me on every social media platform at that handle, NELL_BTP. And then on YouTube, where the big boys come out to play. It's usually a Meal Monday, but because we got the Natty going on tonight, we decided to push it back a little bit. Make sure you check us out on YouTube. Long-form content of the show, YouTube Shorts, exclusive interviews that you're only going to catch via Westwood One Sports Night. Make sure you search Westwood One Sports Night on the YouTube to check us out nightly. I mentioned the biggest news in college basketball was not the fact that Michigan hoisted the title at the end of the night tonight. The biggest news in college basketball was that there's a new head coach in Chapel Hill. His name is Mike Malone. Pete Thamel, longtime basketball insider for ESPN. Pete Thamel had this to say about how the University of North Carolina ultimately landed on Mike Malone as their next head man.
Well, Jay, it came together fairly quickly. There was some initial interest in Mike Malone when the search started. Carolina elected to look elsewhere for a little bit. They circled back to him in the last few days, and Malone accepted the job in the past few hours. Michael Malone is one of the best coaches of basketball in the world. He's obviously been an analyst for us recently, won an NBA championship with the Denver Nuggets. His respect as a tactician, I think, is really important here. Michael Jordan, Roy Williams, the Carolina brass, the gold standard of Carolina, really endorsed Michael Malone as the school's next head coach.
I love Pete Thamel. But that last part right there, saying that Michael Jordan and Roy Williams endorsed Michael Malone, they could have hired Oliver Popular. They better have endorsed his ass too. What are they going to do? Talk trash about Michael Malone, the dude that's supposed to usher them into the next era of North Carolina basketball? Of course they were going to, praise him and talk about his X and O's expertise. The big question that I have moving forward, a couple of different things come to mind when you really settle into the idea of Mike Malone being the new head coach of the University of North Carolina. First and foremost, like I said earlier, this was a rock-solid hire. This is a guy that's got NBA hardware. He's a champion. He's a highly regarded tactician from an X's and O's standpoint. Everybody in NBA circles laud his X's and O ability. So it's at least a solid hire. The other question that we haven't really got to here tonight, is his coaching style going to translate to the college basketball level? I think it's hit or miss in terms of if that style, is he a chameleon or not, is the best way that I'm going to put it. Can he, because it's different, right, when you're talking to grown-ass men. Does he have the interpersonal skills? And this is a key part of being a college coach, especially in 2026, where these kids are getting paid, they're a little bit more bratty. Does he have the interpersonal skills to be able to relate to these 17 to 21-year-old men? That's the bottom line. That, to me, is a big, big piece of this. He was known as a total hard ass on the NBA level. Known as a total hard ass. Rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, including the Joker, Nikola Jokic. Will he know who to pat on the back and who to kick in the ass out in Chapel Hill? Because if not, it's going to be hard to reach 17 to 21-year-olds. Just saying. Mike Malone, the new head coach in Chapel Hill, going to lead the Tar Heels basketball program into their next era. John Rothstein of CBS Sports gave us a key factor into what ultimately got North Carolina to land on Mike Malone. We'll let you hear from John Rothstein next. This is Westwood One Sports Night.
Michigan wins its first title since 1989. The Wolverines are on top of the college basketball world. A moment 37 years in the making. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will be in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
This is Westwood One Sports Night. Here's Lynnell Willingham.
Party continues here on Westwood One Sports Night as we take you coast to coast, delivering the biggest story, the biggest news in the world of sports. Why should you tune in to Westwood One Sports Night every night? Why should you be a fan of the fastest rising, fastest growing national sports show in the world? Because we're giving you unprecedented access. If you make the wise choice to subscribe to our YouTube channel, just search Westwood One Sports Night. our guy Josh Graham, the Kang of North Kakalaki, was boots on the ground in Indianapolis all weekend long, climaxing tonight with the men's national championship game. Michigan, big, fat winners, 69-63 over the UConn Huskies. Valiant effort from Dan Hurley and company. I've been saying it all throughout the duration of this show. His ability to get the absolute best out of everybody on this roster this year, I think was super impressive. If they would have accomplished, if they would have won tonight, talking about UConn, would have been 3 natties in the span of 4 years for Dan Hurley. I was willing to have the conversation about him not just being the best college basketball coach of all time, but where were we going to talk about him amongst the greatest coaches ever? Think about what he's doing. And if this year's team would have won, knowing that they were clearly inferior to Michigan from a talent standpoint, would have been even more impressive, man. But it's not the way that the cookie crumbled. Michigan, 69-63 winners over UConn. Elliot Cadeau, who was written off by Raymond Felton and Tar Heel fans out there nationwide, he ain't right back. Came up big tonight for the Michigan Wolverines, dictating pace, dictating tempo, getting out in transition, knocking down free throws, coming up big defensively, just making heady play after heady play after heady play. He was the leading scorer tonight for both teams as he finished with 19 points on 5 of 11 shooting. He didn't do it by himself. I thought the bench play of Roddy Gale Jr. and Trey McKinney was ultimately the difference maker in this basketball game. Those two played 25 and 29 minutes respectively. They combined for 13 points. And the heady plays that they both made as far as grabbing an offensive rebound, getting their hand in a passing lane. They used the cliche that we have 9 starters. That's what Michigan said when the axle went down over the weekend. We got 9 starters. They were walking it like they talked it here tonight with the depth that they showed, going 8-9 deep. UConn did the same thing. I just continue to be impressed by Dusty May, man. I keep saying it. He has won with this roster that he's assembled. He's showing you, man, it's more than one way to skin a cat, and this may be the new way to skin a cat as he becomes the first team to win a natty with a starting 5 full of transfers. One of the best coaching jobs we've ever seen when you put that in the context, getting all those egos to get on one accord and to not have anybody be selfish or think they're bigger than the program. Shout out to Dusty May. Awesome, awesome victory tonight for the University of Michigan. Crazy part is Michigan winning the national championship, not the biggest story in the world of college basketball here today. At about 2 p.m. Eastern time, we got the big-time breaking news that rocked the sports world. The University of North Carolina, 12 hours before the transfer portal opened up, putting pen to paper with Mike Malone to become their next head coach, former NBA champion with the Denver Nuggets. Rock-solid hire for this program. My big question is how aggressive will they be in terms of the resources that they have as far as going out the transfer portal, getting a new roster. I think, and I didn't get to this earlier, the number one need that they have, one, you got to bring back Henry Vesser. Like, I know he's going to, be highly sought after. Someone's going to try to give him a big bag. Do what you can to keep him around. And then go get you a legitimate alpha in terms of a scoring guard. You had Elliot Cadeau. Told him hit the road, Jack. Now you got to go out and get somebody else that can break defenses down off the bounce. When you think about the size that they have on the interior with Vesser, if they can keep him, that's the brand of basketball that Mike Malone should want to play. He's going to want to get guys in the front court. We know what he was able to do with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. Expect a similar two-man game to be employed next year, depending on how they're able to construct this roster. Speaking of Mike Malone, new head coach in Chapel Hill, I've been saying it all show long, rock solid hire if you're a Tar Heels fan. But the reality is you didn't get your first choice. You didn't get your second choice. You didn't get your third choice, your fourth choice. Damn it, you may not have even gotten the top 5 choice. But you landed on an NBA champion. John Rothstein, CBS Sports, had this to say about what was the determining factor in ultimately getting Mike Malone to Chapel Hill. Take a listen.
Another thing I want to point out right now, a major factor in this hire was the fact that North Carolina did not have to pay a buyout to get Michael Malone. We have to remember, and we talked about this the last couple of days, other candidates down the list, like Mark Byington from Vanderbilt, like Grant McCaslin from Texas Tech, had buyouts in excess of $10 million. Michael Malone also spent a lot of time at North Carolina because his daughter is a volleyball player there, and I was told attended practice last season 4 or 5 times. So there's familiarity there with Mike Malone. Obviously the first hire, though, in a long, long time to not have a tie to the North Carolina family.
John Rothstein, I love you, brother. Really insightful. Provides us big-time information. The next person that mentions that Mike Malone's daughter goes to UNC and he went to 4 to 5 practices. Oh, he gained so much insight about the basketball program and about the school from going to 4 to 5 practices. Give me a break. You can tell folks like UNC, folks trying to spin this in whatever positive direction they can. That's me burying the lead, though. The reason I wanted to play that John Rothstein clip for you is because, like, hold on. You mean the number one factor in why they got Mike Malone was not because he was at the top of their list, not because he was the most credible candidate, but because you didn't have to pay a buyout? You cheap bastards. Come on. Pay up. This is 2026 in the world of college athletics. You either shake a leg or lose one. You pay up or get stuck is the best way that I can put it. You got to put your money where your mouth is, man. Here's the thing if you're a Tar Heel fan, what you should be excited about in terms of not having to pay the buyout. Technically speaking, that's more money that you can put into the transfer portal, that you can put into freshmen. So technically that's a win. I get it. But if that was a key factor, was that a major key for real? Let me find out North Carolina's broke. That's the thing that honestly, this is me being this conspiracy guy that talks like this. This is rugged Nell that doesn't give a damn and wants to see everyone do bad. I was hoping that North Carolina didn't land their top target, if I'm being honest. This is working the evil laugh. I was rooting against North Carolina the whole damn time. But I got to keep it a buck. I got to keep it 8 more than 92. Call a spade a spade. This was a rock-solid hire. There were a lot worse guys out there than Mike Malone, but you're North Carolina. You can only dip, you know what I'm saying, so low. Like me, a brother out there who considers himself a 10, I don't deal with 4s and 5s because I'm the youngest in charge, damn it. If you're North Carolina, you should bare minimum be getting a rock-solid hire simply based off of who you are as a program, what your name, what your brand ultimately means in the landscape of college athletics. Just how I think. 310-840-4910 is the number. There are a bunch of other things that we didn't get to throughout the course of the show. If you're just now joining us, just now waking up, getting ready for your Tuesday shift, good morning to you. We appreciate you locking into the program. University of Michigan, last team standing in the world of college basketball, 69-63 winners over the UConn Huskies. Dusty May completing what I'm calling one of the best 2-year turnarounds in recent memory. One of the best 2-year turnarounds in recent memory. I was going to sidetrack us here. I'll do it in a second. Why do I say it's one of the best 2-year turnarounds? They were 8-24 2 seasons ago, 3-17 in Big Ten play, and now they're hoisting the national championship trophy. How do you like that? Shout out to Dusty May. Leaving North Carolina on red. How about that? On the day he had to win the Natty. If he didn't win the Natty tonight, after leaving UNC on red, people are going to be looking at him crazy. So shout out to Dusty May, man. I can only imagine. Dusty, if you're listening, brother, because I know y'all probably on the way to the hotel right now. Maybe you going to go get an old-fashioned with Rob Doster. If you're listening, brother, I've been one of your biggest advocates here over the past 48 hours. I'm going to drop my Cash App because I know you got a big-time extension coming your way. Dusty, you deserve it, brother. Showing why he should now be regarded as one of the biggest names in all of college basketball, man. Dusty May and the Wolverines getting it done. Why was I about to hijack the show? If you're watching on YouTube, and we encourage you to do so, stream the show nightly. Just search Westwood One Sports Night. You can see what's behind me. Bunch of burgundy and gold stuff. Wizards memorabilia right there. Buy Dan Snyder beers. BYE, not BUY. Denton Day, there was a picture that's come up on my timeline, and I engaged in behavior like this a couple of months ago to Engagement Farm. But it seems like this brother's doing it for real. There's a screen grab, Denton. You know where I'm going with this.
I can't believe you got beat to this.
There's a screen grab, brother. I'm ashamed of myself, honestly. Honestly, somebody need to bend me over and spank me for me not being the first on the scene with this. Brandon Ayuk working out with Jaden Daniels. Ooh-wee.
Allegedly.
Injected into my face. Allegedly. This is definitely Brandon Ayuk. I can tell by the dip in his route. I can tell by the dip. Now, mind you, this photo, and I'm going to try to show you all on YouTube, it actually looks better like this than it does straight up in my face.
Way better like that.
That's crazy, bro. Hold on. Let me find out the StreamYard camera's like zooming in. On my camera, I would call this like 360 DP. This boosted to like 720 when I put it up here.
Yeah, that actually looks good. I saw people they took a group shot.
Oh.
And he was like slightly cut out. But someone said, yeah, the guy that looks like he's homeless on the far side because he's wearing baggy clothes. And I was like, damn.
Wait, where? Oh, that kills me.
It's on the same page that you saw it on. It'll
I'm
pop
going to find it. I'm going to find it, and I'm going to.
It's the worst kept secret in the NFL right now.
Yeah. The Niners
everybody knows he's going there.
Yeah. I don't know what type of games that they think that they're playing right now, but they need to stop it. Oh, my gosh. The one on the side that looks homeless. Boy, oh, boy. I'm going to take us a break before I end up homeless. 310-840-4910 is how you reach us here on Westwood One Sports Night. We got a lot more to get into. We're going to take a quick trip around the NBA. We'll get you some big-time news out of the NFC East, and we'll dunk on a historic women's college basketball program, and we'll even put the show to bed. All that more next here on Westwood One Sports Night.
Michigan wins its first title since 1989. The Wolverines are on top of the college basketball world. A moment 37 years in the making. Westwood One Sports.
At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 4 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 3 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 2 minutes. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute, 30 seconds. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 1 minute. Stations, this is your final time check. At the tone, the broadcast will begin in 30 seconds.
This is Westwood One Sports Night. Here's Lynnell Willingham.
One final segment to go here on what's been a legendary show is how I'll describe tonight, man. Legendary show. If you made this legendary show a part of your morning, part of your evening, shout out to you. Bunch of different ways you could have done that. You can check us out on one of our over 200-plus affiliates out there nationwide. You can check us out via SiriusXM Channel 375. We stream the show nightly on YouTube and on X. On YouTube, just search Westwood One Sports Night. We got some comments in the YouTube chat. Hot Carlito. That's what he's calling himself. I do not think that he is hot, nor think he's not hot. Pause. No mention of Mill Monday is what he says. No, there is no Mill Monday. Tonight, in exchange for Mill Monday, we brought you Josh Graham, boots on the ground in Indy. We brought you Rob Doster. We brought you Mr. Bosch, the play-by-play voice of the Michigan Wolverines. Bosch, I think it's Bush, actually, so I'm sorry. That was the big thing all throughout the night. Is it Bosch or Bush? He was not Bush. He was great.
I'll be the villain here. I was the one that nixed me on Monday this week because we just didn't know what was going on from Indy, and we didn't want to run into a situation, depending on how late the game went, of like, are we talking to Josh in Indianapolis while Lynnell's like mixing something like that. It feels like it would have undercut the fact that he was in Indianapolis.
Yes.
Or it would have undercut Meal Monday because like what's really important, your national championship or Meal Monday. So we want to give each their proper due.
We did not want to pit the two massive events against one another. So shout out to the super producer making an executive decision.
That's what I do. Big
He's
bucks
making
over
an
here.
executive decision to boycott
APD.
the show the next couple of nights as well. No, retweet that. Our guy's going on a hiking extravaganza.
I invited you. I guess it got lost in the mail. I know you're a big hike. I'm the only nature guy on the program. Like,
No,
that's what I'm running into.
Yeah. The nature man. I was going to call you the nature boy, but you're clearly not a boy. But you are a man.
Yeah, I ain't going to be wooing too either. It's too late. It's like 3 a.m.
It's never too late to woo. Woo! Sorry, neighbors. 310-840-4910 talking text line. There was a couple of things I wanted to get to before we let D-Day put the show to bed. Massive trade request in the NFC East. Dexter Lawrence, multi-time all-pro defensive tackle for the Giants, requesting out. They gave him they put a Band-Aid on his contract situation. Last year had a training camp. Now that Band-Aid has been ripped off and he's bleeding again. He requested a trade. He's not going to be participating in the team's offseason workout program that begins coming up later on this afternoon. 2 off seasons in a row, these two sides have been trying to negotiate a contract. It sucks for Dexter. 2 years remaining on the deal, scheduled to make $20 million this year. He doesn't have much leverage based off of what he did last year. He was garbage during the 2025 season. So he doesn't have a whole lot of leverage. Tough that he's in this situation. Best wishes to Dexter Lawrence as he tries to figure out this contract conundrum. The other big thing that we didn't get to, we'll briefly touch on, the Bulls cleaning house. They fire their general manager and president of basketball operations. Sources say Billy Donovan, who was very high on North Carolina's wish list, is going to get some front office power to convince him to stay there in the Windy City. We'll see how that ultimately works out. Tennessee Volunteers women's basketball program is going through something that's totally ludicrous right now. It's one of the most storied programs in recent memory, or in history, rather. Obviously, the legendary Pat Summitt, the most known name from the University of Tennessee. Their second-year coach, Kim Caldwell, went 16-14 this season. Every player remaining with eligibility on the team has entered the transfer portal. There is currently one person on this roster right now for Coach Caldwell. If you see a mass exodus like that as the athletic director, you got to just fire the damn coach. You got to talk to somebody who knows something about what's going on. Because if you don't think that these young women were conspiring together to leave the program, you set tripping. And I got a bag of air that I can sell you. Athletic director should have stepped in on this. This sucks, though, man. Overall, the team lost 7 games by at least 15 points, the most in 40 years. This is the University of Tennessee we're talking about now. Legendary women's basketball program because of the great Pat Summitt. Program currently right now in dire straits as they try to figure things out. That was all that I had. Tony in Montreal are going to wrap up our calls for tonight. But before we put the show to bed, Tony, what you got for us, man?
How you doing, man? Thanks for taking my call. I'm quite impressed with Michigan. You said they turned it around in 2 years, but check this out. On April 9th to the 11th, the Frozen Four, you got the semifinal, Wisconsin versus North Dakota, and you got Michigan versus Denver. And I saw Denver play in New Hampshire last year, a top dog team. Their former coach is the St. Louis coach, who's a gentleman that comes from my hometown. And up here in Montreal anyway, but he's obviously in the NHL today. But it's amazing hockey. And can you imagine if you win the national championship? I'm wondering if this is the same Michigan team. I think it is. But imagine if they win it back-to-back in less than 10 days or a week. You win a hockey title and a basketball title. That would be something phenomenal. I don't think that's ever been
Michigan
done.
hockey is up for is in the deep in the tournament as well?
Well, they made the Final Four, right? So
wow.
they're playing on the 9th. They're playing Denver, and the championship is on the 11th. So imagine, this is something else. I mean, to get to the Final Four is one thing in hockey because it's super competitive. Denver's been in it for multiple number of years, but Michigan is no slouch. And obviously, the turnaround in the basketball is just phenomenal. And nobody can say that UConn didn't play well. It's another great program too. But I'm not a basketball dude, but I love the game and I like watching it. I don't know anything about the strategy of the game. I'm a hockey guy.
That's okay.
But
That's how I feel about hockey.
I would say that if you're Michigan and you can win a national championship in basketball and hockey, I guess you get the football program something to work for. What do you think?
I agree with you, man. Tony, I appreciate you as always, my friend. Have a good
I
night,
appreciate you, man. I love your show.
Yes,
That's why I
indeed.
stay up late.
Yes, sir, man. I appreciate you tapping in all the way from Montreal. All right, better late than never is what Aubrey Drake Graham once said. It's time to put the show to bed with a guy Denton Day.
So we're not in the position where we ask for subscribers a ton anymore on this show, but I'm gonna do that. Can I do that?
You can do
I
that.
need everybody to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Westwood One Sports Night, especially if you hate Hulk Hogan. Netflix announced that they're doing a docu-series on Hulk Hogan, and it features the last interview of Hulk Hogan before he got popped, before God sent his ass away. I hate Hulk Hogan, if that wasn't clear. And I am terrified to see what this is going to be because Netflix has this weird bit where they love to do puff pieces for individuals, and I need everyone
puff
to
Lamar
know.
Odom. They showed exactly how much he was puffing.
Well,
Jeez.
they better do the same thing with Hulk Hogan. That dude was a piece of trash, and he wasn't very good as a wrestler either. He was just everyone. They did the super uber American thing in the '80s, so everyone fell for that. If you actually watch his matches, the dude was ass. He was terrible as a wrestler. He's terrible as a person. I might still watch the thing just to see if they do it right, but I need this to expose. I'm more Iron Sheik than I am Hulk Hogan. Look up how the Iron Sheik feels about Hulk Hogan.
No.
You gonna watch it though?
Of course. Netflix has some bangers coming out. So I just got Netflix again on Friday night or Thursday night. Did the $8.99 package. I'm not too bougie for ads, guys. It's not that big of a deal. There actually aren't as many ads in the $8.99 package, and a lot of you all are paying $21.99. That was not going to be this guy.
$21.99.
$21.99. Crazy. Lamar Odom's documentary was awesome. The Untold series, I like. Denton hates on it. The Jailblazers doc is coming out soon. I think next week, where they show the Portland Trailblazers team of the early 2000s, where a bunch of dudes got arrested.
Oh, I don't hate the Untold series. I just think they did 3 really poorly.
You like Tim Donaghy, though, right? That one.
I never watched it. I worked for a gambling channel. I didn't want to, destroy my livelihood.
You know what? That's a smart thing to do. That's why you're a smart cookie.
Yeah. Everyone go subscribe, though, because Hulk Hogan sucks.
Yeah. You heard what the producer said. Go subscribe before we beat your ass. Kidding.
Brother.
That's going to do it, though, man, for a national championship edition of Westwood One Sports Night. Shout out to Josh Graham joining us, boots on the ground out in Indy. Shout out to Rob Doster hopping on the program. Shout out to the play-by-play voice of the Wolverines joining us. For Oliver Popular, for Denton Day, I'm Lynnell Willingham. Back with you tomorrow. Drake Tolles next.
This is Westwood One Sports.